Never her, she's dead.
Yeah, you never liked her anyways, right? So, the first repeat guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
I found out your grandma died, and I was like, it was a 1-year anniversary. I was like, I have to have Rob.
Yeah,
I gotta get him. This is a must-have interview for me.
Yeah.
You know,
She'd be so proud.
Yeah, I bet she would. This is the big time, you know. I kind of consider myself the Johnny Carson of the Berlin comedy scene.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure, man. Thanks for having me.
Are you doing anything to celebrate your grandma's passing?
No, I mean, I do. I might fall off the wagon for, just for today, but.
That's what you would have wanted.
That's what she would have wanted. Yeah, I mean, that's how she went out.
Yeah.
She went out in a blaze of glory. She OD'd on heroin.
Yeah.
No, she had a stroke. But yeah.
We can't rule heroin out. Then.
Yeah.
Did they do an autopsy, or were they just like, she's old? You know.
Yeah, that's always my plan is to like. When I get super old and I've got nothing left to lose, just start taking heroin. Like, yeah. Just fuck it. Like, you got nothing to.
Well, and everybody who does heroin says it's like, it is amazing.
I really want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to do it so bad.
The bad parts are just the time when you're not on heroin.
Yeah. I mean, but you can just be on heroin all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, I mean, just get in the hospital. They give you the morphine drip. Isn't that essentially the same thing?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like Louis Theroux?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember he does this episode where he's like talking to heroin addicts.
My money don't jiggle.
Huh? My money don't jiggle. So catchy.
I know.
Fuck, man.
Such a good song.
Such a good song, man. But he's like goes to like interview these like heroin addicts, and there's like these ones who live down by a river, like down in a van by the river, like, literally. And then he's like talking to this one guy who's like has a wife.
It turns out it's not as funny as Chris
not
Farley
as funny as
portrayed it
Chris
to
Farley
be.
portrayed it. I mean, like, David
it's actually
Spade,
pretty sad.
David Spade was actually there. And,
yeah.
That's a deep cut. But fucking, there's just this one guy who's like has a wife and kid, and he's just like, nah, I just love heroin too much. He's just like, and Louis Theroux's like, do you want to like see your wife and kid or whatever? He's like, no, like it's just I just like this too much, man. It's great, like. And then Louis is just like looking around. He's like in a tent.
Yeah.
Like, it's just horrible. And you're like, it must be so fucking good if that guy's like happy living in that. Scenario.
Yeah.
Must be so good. But I want to just. I always thought like, I was like, I just want to do it once, and then just never do it again, just like a bucket list thing. But I'm pretty sure like half the heroin addicts out there were had that mindset. Like, just want to do it once. I'm different from everyone else. Like,
I have restraint. I can try it. I can do it. But I mean, I also like I obviously, like the big ones like heroin and meth, the ones that could really like fuck your life up or whatever. But like I know a few people who really like, fucked their life with like cocaine or just MDMA or whatever. Weed, I know a guy, funny guy.
Explains a lot.
But he really fucked himself with the weed.
Big time. Big time.
But I mean, my point was going to be was just like, the thing is, it sounds fun, but I don't know, like, I've been in the moments where I was fucking my life with like alcohol, for example. It's like it wasn't as romantic as it sounded before I got into it.
Yeah. I mean, when you're drunk, it's really cool. Then the next day, it's just like,
Yeah. But even like I don't know. I remember like. If you have, like, I used to sometimes occasionally just, like, get drunk by myself at, like, noon in a park kind of a thing, you know?
Yeah? It's not bad?
It's, like, I mean, I sold it to myself as I was, like, I'm listening to music, the music sounds better, like, I'm having fun. But there is a moment where you, like, see people out for a walk and you're like, I'm drunk, like, by myself. Like, this is... I have a home, but we're hurtling towards something that's Louis Theroux's going to be visiting me real soon.
Yeah, man. The moment I had a similar moment to that where it was like, I was out partying and then I was like on my way home and it was like 8 a.m. and my eyes were just like, boop, like just like saucers, like it was the size of this thing.
Yeah.
And
they were spinning too.
Yeah, they were spinning. Yeah, and there was like the color was there as well because I'm gay. And, but and then I remember I passed like my little brother and his friends while they were going to school, and he was like 14 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is so not cool. Like, because they thought it was hilarious that like I was like,
yeah.
And then, but like, it's so sad. Like,
yeah.
You're like, I don't want you to turn out like this.
I
don't want you to turn out like this.
Yeah. Don't make these mistakes.
Yeah. Which I used to be like with my younger brother because I was so afraid of him going down that path that I used to be like, don't take drugs. Like I used to fucking like really.
Yeah.
It's like, if I find out you take drugs, and then I realized this is so ridiculous. Like he needs to find out for himself. Like.
Yeah.
If he's gonna, I think he smokes weed, but that's about the height of it. Like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like my like time. I was like, this is like sad. But then when you're a teenager, it's like, it's cool to be,
Yeah,
drinking
totally.
At 12.
Yeah.
But I think it gets sad when you're like, I mean, there's a cutoff point. I mean, like, I know early 20s, it's still probably cool. I mean, in Berlin, you can probably do it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like, it's Berlin, man.
You see people like, the last time I was at the club, there was this guy, and like, like it's not like when you take ecstasy, it's super hallucinogenic, but like sometimes it's like it makes things, it's kind of cinematic and weird. Mm-hmm. And there was this guy who was like up on top of the stage, and to me, he just looked so like withered. Like he probably was just like a 50-year-old dude or something. Yeah. No, he had hair. Okay. But he was just up there, and he had like, he had the thing where it's like long hair but the bald, and then just like an open vest so you can see his like sunken chest, but it's a little bit chubby. And I was just so repulsed. And I was like, he was living his best life. He's like up on the thing, dancing, loving it. And I was like, but somehow it's still, I'm like, I don't want that.
No.
That's
like, it looks like he's living his best life until like the next morning.
Yeah.
When he's just in hell. Like, but like in Ireland, that would be like sad.
Yeah.
But here it's like cool.
Yeah, we're like, oh, that's so cool. You never gave it up.
Yeah, never give up. Yeah.
You never fixed your problem.
You're only as old as you feel, Age is just a number, man. In Ireland, you just have people.
And you don't feel anything if you're high enough.
Yeah. I mean,
with enough ketamine, you can't feel anything.
Always feel 21. You know what I mean? And well, yeah, like in Ireland, if you were like 50 years old, like on drugs, people just like, what are you doing, man? But here it's like. I was like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Like, is it a good thing that you can come to somewhere like this and just live like a perpetual fucking like youth?
Yeah.
But then it's sad. I mean, like, it's.
But I think for me it's like I'm like, if you're happy, then I'm happy for you. Mm-hmm. But like, I know for me, it would just be. Each year I love to party. Like that was like so much of my persona in my early life too. I was like, I live for this, and I'm like, I want to be the party guy, the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And now as I get older, I'm like, I still love to party, but I'm like, all right, this is, I like in moderation. And then also it's like last night. So I had like 3 beers. Or maybe 3 or 4 beers, and I was like tipsy, and it was nice, whatever. And then I was coming back home, and I was crossing the main street here, and I just tripped, and I just face planted super hard into the
woman's vagina.
Yeah, exactly. And then she wouldn't let me out. She was just holding me down there. It was like a cartoon. My legs were going, It was the female equivalent of like a manhole.
Oh, yeah. Or like a Venus flytrap.
Yeah. But it's like I face planted, and like I had thrown out my neck, and it was almost better. And then now this morning it's all fucked up again. Oh, yeah? And that's one of those things where I'm like, dude, what am I doing?
Oh, you like.
Like I like fully and also into this major, like I face planted in Karl Marx alley. Like there were no cars coming, but like
if there was,
I would have been fucked.
Yeah. Fuck, man. Did
And
you
that's-
like hit your head?
I didn't hit my head. I was fine. I like cut my elbow a teeny bit, whatever. But that's one of those things where I'm like, what am I? It's a Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But it's like 3 beers, so it might have happened even if you weren't.
Yeah, 100%. But I was for sure like,
Did anyone see it?
no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Oh, it's brutal when that happens.
Yeah.
I fell up an escalator the other day at some really busy U-Bahn station. Like, I don't know what I was doing. I was like run, and I just went like flat on the fucking thing. And you just get up and you're like, oh, that didn't happen. You know?
Yeah.
I'm fine. But like your knee is just fucked, and you're like, yeah, it's cool. Like I didn't fucking. I meant to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like also if you're that person, then you're like, you know that like other people are gonna tell their like, dude, I saw a guy eat it at
the U-Bahn station. Yeah, it's great. I remember one time I went to this. I don't know what for some reason I was. This was like when I was like 20 something. And I was just walking through town, and it's almost like God was just like, this is just like part of God's plan. It was just like, I was like dressed to the nines and like dress shoes and a suit and like a pea coat and stuff, and my hair slicked back, and I don't know where I was going. I was just like, yeah, and then I was just like walking down this main street, and I just went. And I just like scolded myself on the ground. And it's like, oh, it's just so much more embarrassing when you're all like suited up, you know? And you're like, dog! And you're like lying there and you're like, and you get up. And everyone's like, there's like 2 people like, are you okay? And you're like, yeah, fine. And then you just like fucking rush out of there. But like, if it's a homeless person falling, you're like, oh, that's sad. Like,
yeah.
But if it's a guy in a suit, you're like, ah, there's this guy, there's this famous video of this, it's like Irish like folklore of this like guy who, it's just so funny. It's called like, it's just like RTE is like our like big. It's like CNN.
Yeah.
In Ireland, and this guy who like during this particularly like cold time and like weather period in Ireland, where like they were doing this thing about warning people that the sidewalks were slippy.
Yeah.
And they just set up a camera on this particularly slippy turn on a sidewalk, and just to catch it.
Like so unethical.
Oh, it's so unethical. They're
like, actually, we poured the water.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, they actually just like got ice from like a supermarket, and just like, and then they just like left the camera there, and some guy just like in a suit with like in a suitcase, like on a like he was like a lawyer or something, and he just took the corner, and then he just like literally. I'm surprised he didn't die. Like he just slipped, and he like you can hear his head hit the fucking ground, and he gets up and he's like, and they just showed this on the news. Like, look at this, it's icy.
Don't be this guy.
Yeah, don't be this guy. And now it's just like folklore. Like, the corner where he slipped has like a plaque being like, this is where the man fell on the ice. It's got like 5 million views and it's just like resurfaces every year.
I wonder where, like, that would be a great, like, where is that guy?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably wheelchair bound, fucking like
actually
being spoon fed by a nurse. Yeah. Dude, it's
if that happened in the States, there's no way he's not taking ORT to court for like at least $1 million.
Oh yeah, for like not.
Yeah, just for like being like, oh, you're just gonna be like not warn me and just.
It's literally like watching one of these like survival programs where they're like, we're gonna set this trap with like a thing, and maybe we'll come back tomorrow night and see if there's something there, and they come back and there's like a fucking whatever, like a rabbit in there or something. It was literally like that. They're like, all right, let's come back tomorrow, and then imagine how happy they were. With, oh, we got one. This guy like
listen to the sound.
Yeah. Oh, I'll show you afterwards. It's fucking brutal. I'm
actually, we're gonna put it up here right now.
Yeah. It's great.
If you're watching the podcast.
Are you actually going to put it up?
I'm going to put it up. 14:30, Patrick, when I'm editing this, 14:40.
14:40. Remind me to tell you what it's called.
Yeah.
It's, dude, it's the best. It's just like, I don't know where the poor bastard is, but...
But I remember... I feel like we have to talk about suicide at some point, so I was like, when are we gonna get to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of when.
But I remember because I studied journalism in college, and in this journalism ethics class, they would show us what they aired, and then they would show us the different shots they had, and like kind of what they considered acceptable to put on TV. And one of them was this guy at this bridge who they had the footage of him sitting there and he's like, you know, saying he's going to kill himself. And then he does. Like, he jumps. And they have the thing. And what they ended up using on the news afterwards was just like, after he jumped, like, his jacket and stuff was like still there. So you could kind of get the sense there. Like, it's too fucked up to show this guy kill himself.
It just says Finn.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has the little like crackling.
This violin, like
the first is like.
And then like a sound effect, like like a real cartoonish, like boing. Oh man! But that would so they're saying talking about what you can show.
They were showing like what you can and can't show. And to me, when you tell that story, I'm kind of like, woof, that's a bit like.
I mean, if he died, they probably couldn't.
Yeah.
But I think he came out and did an interview like a year later and was like, yeah, I'm the guy who fell on the ice.
Yeah.
You
If
know?
it were now, he would be like, I'm on TikTok. I've got a merch drop. It's
yeah,
me.
it's
like...
just him like fucking. Oh, dude, you're gonna laugh so hard when you see it. But wait, I don't know. You've probably definitely seen this because you were talking about the journalism thing. The Bridge, that documentary on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's not. I was just saying that to seem like an evil bastard, but it's brutal. Like,
yeah, it's.
This is man, like this is like so fucked up, and I was trying to like do this on stage, but it's just too like because I use Reddit just for porn. Okay. Porn, and then I find the like Russia Ukraine thing like fascinating. So I'm like it's like porn, and then like Russia Ukraine subreddits where they post. It's just like. It's like the best place to go to get like the new like the footage and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's brutal. Like Reddit is like you can show anything. Like so it's just like people like oh we've Russian guys like ambush Ukrainian battalion or whatever, and then it's just like them videoing just like all these guys with their fucking heads blown off and their legs whatever. And I'm like jerking off and I'm scrolling through it and I'm like jerking off into the thing and I'm trying to find a good picture.
They don't show them actually dying, which is what I need to finish. Like I need to see the life leave their eyes. The dead body, that doesn't that gets me going, but it's not gonna get me to completion.
I need at least a gif of like the person. But so I'm like scrolling, trying to find like a good thing to jerk off to, but like I'm jerking off and I'm like scrolling past pictures of fucking guys with their heads blown off. Like I'm like, this is fucked. I hope it just doesn't like plant a seed in my brain of like, what like I can only get off to dead Russian soldiers, what I mean? Which would be I think I'm past that point. I think that's if you're a teenager. If you're hitting puberty, apparently that's what happens with fetishes.
Really?
Yeah, I mean I read this somewhere that like fetishes get locked in when you're like on the precipice of like you're just hitting puberty and then something sexual happens and then it just gets fucking like locked in. If for some reason your brain goes, oh, that's my thing now forever. And I mean you can develop fetishes I guess when you're older, but like that's what I heard that like
it makes sense, but it also makes sense from a standpoint of like I don't know, my perception of our generation is that it's like we have like the wildest fetish. Like sex has gotten like way wilder and more like fucked up. I mean, like just a simple rape fantasy is like child's play now. You know? It's like come on, and it makes sense if you think about it. It's like for me at least, like the first time I ever came, I was watching porn, and it's been like it was porn the whole time, and. And so, if probably everybody our generation is somewhat similar to that story, and if that's how a fetish gets locked in, you're like, shit, I thought I was just, fucking around with some foot videos, but
yeah. I mean, it could be that, or it could just be like, you just see something, like you just, I don't know, and it just gets locked in, like, but I mean, like, there's more. I guess it's just there's more. Like, I want to get a dildo.
Is that how you think you got this whole gay fetish?
Yeah, I mean, I just saw fucking two guys making out, and I was like, oh, that's nice. So I want to get like a dildo. I've been like thinking about getting a dildo. But,
really?
I just feel
I don't strike you as like a dildo.
No, but
guy.
I just want to try it.
Yeah, like you would put it in while you're jerking off.
Yeah. No, you put it in while you're washing the dishes. What the fuck do you?
I don't know, like maybe it's like it's your foreplaying yourself, you know? It's like you put it in, you get yourself excited, and and then you go sit down.
Oh, you jerk off.
Look at some dead Russian soldiers.
Just Googling where I can get a fucking Russian soldier outfit or whatever. That'd be like such a unique fetish. You like meet someone on Grindr and you're like, yeah, I need you to like dress in this this Russian military thing. I'm just gonna like put some ketchup on your face so you look like you're dead, and then I'm just gonna jerk off. Then you can leave. Yeah. And then they're like, "What's in this for me?" It's like, "Oh, you get to dress up as a soldier." You know?
I buy you the uniform.
Yeah, how about you keep the uniform? Yeah. And but I was just because I've been reading about prostate orgasms, and apparently they're fucking insane. And I'm like, I want to. It's like the heroin thing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like prostate orgasms is that's an explorable thing. Yeah. The heroin thing, I think we should keep as as a dream. Mm-hmm. But the prostate orgasm feels attainable.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's not going to ruin your life. I mean, it could.
It could. Well, you don't know.
You don't know. I mean, it could turn you gay.
Why
it could turn you gay, which is ruining your life. I mean,
why did Rob stop doing comedy?
He
got into those prostate orgasms.
Fritz Colas and I'm just living in a tent by the river. And there's just dildos, semen, and Fritz Cola bottles.
Lisa Rose, like, you don't miss your family? Like, I just love prostate orgasms.
Dude, you gotta try it. Like, I'm trying to fucking stick a dildo up his ass. But
why now? I mean, you're leaving Berlin. I feel like now like Berlin was the moment. You know, there's a sex shop on every corner. You know.
I wasted my time here, I think. For sure. And I never went to any of these sex clubs or like, I never went to any of that shit. Well, like I couldn't really because of COVID. But like the last while it's been open and everyone's like, oh, you should go to like Kit Kat and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, I'd be too self-conscious to go to like anywhere like that. Like, I don't know, like I'm like vaguely out of shape. I got a small dick. I feel like I'd make everyone like uncomfortable, even though I know it's all in my head. Like I know people just be like, oh, it's just another. And I know there'd be like way creepier people there than me, you know. So I'm like, oh yeah, just go and do it. But I just can never.
My thing with the Kit Kat is like I'm a starer. Like I just like Anya will joke, you know, that she doesn't get mad at me like when I stare at like hot chicks because I will also just stare at like old people, kids, man, woman, kids. My kid's alive. But like I find humans fascinating, and I have a bad. I don't realize I'm staring. Like I just am kind of observing. It's like David Attenborough in my head, and I'm kind of like, and then she'll be like, "You've been staring at that person," and so I would worry the same thing would happen if I were at Kit Kat, where I'd just be like, "Holy shit, she's really licking his butt," you know, like she'd look at her go, and then it would be like, "Oh, you're that guy," like.
Yeah, I think I'd be the same, but I think people are like, I heard people talking about this, and they're like, "Oh, people are like super respectful in these places that like that's not encouraged." Like
I think
which is like insane because like it's such a natural response, just like see two people fucking and you're supposed to just go, oh. You know what I mean? Like of course you're gonna like look, but I think you can like ask. You're like, do you mind if I watch and just like jerk off while you're blowing each other?
You can do the Louis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And but I
would love if that was actually the vernacular. Like you're at the club and you're like, do you mind if I
do a Louis?
Can I do a Louis?
Can I do a Louis this? Or just Cosby? And it's like no, dude. Last time you were here, you Cosby'd someone when you're not allowed back in.
You can't do that.
But I think you can ask. You're like, oh, can I like jerk off while I watch you or whatever? And then they can be like, no. Or you can like ask to join in.
Yeah,
I feel so weird if it's two people fucking. You're like, do you mind? Like, can I just?
Yeah, like you're at the gym. You're like trying to get in. Do you mind if I sneak in? For a set?
Can I just do a set? How many sets you got left? You're gonna sneak. Like, I feel like getting rejected in that situation would be really painful as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
I mean that's my whole like. I don't know, like all these sexual freedom people. I love it for them. I wish I had more of that thing. But I don't know. I have way too much self-consciousness and shame.
Oh, yeah.
And like, and yeah, as you said, where I'm like, I'm vaguely uncomfortable with my body. I feel like I have a small dick. I know I come fast. It's like, what am I bringing to the table here? You know, nobody's going to be like, you know, when you were fucking us in that orgy, you were so funny. You know, you had a lot of great takes during the orgy.
Yeah. I mean, it would probably be amazing for material. Like,
oh, yeah.
But, I feel like I feel like I'd make everyone uncomfortable, and I feel like I have like a lot of like internalized homophobia, so I'd be going around just like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? Like, which I definitely have. But I feel like I remember one guy saying, a comic saying he was there and he's straight, and he was just like sitting talking to someone in one of these clubs, and they were just like sitting on like, and they were like clothes, like in normal clothes. It could have been Berghain or something. And they're just sitting there talking, and like just literally right here, there's just like fuck some guy fucking, like there was just some guy's face like here, and he was getting fucked from behind.
Could you imagine trying to listen if that was happening?
Yeah.
So it's been hard at work.
Yeah, it's just like
yeah.
Like, oh man,
your boss is really riding you.
Yeah. And there's this guy's face. He's like, oh, and he's like, oh. So, I mean, it's probably super. I mean, like healthy, I suppose, to be like more.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it'd probably be really good for me to go and do that type of shit, but I just fucking, I can't, man.
But here's the thing about that is like my best friend, he like. You know, like when you're, I mean, you don't know because your best friend's dead, but.
Is your best friend your mom? Because you're going to be in the same boat soon, buddy.
But anyways, like, I remember like when I was like maybe 25, 26, I was like really into like going to music festivals. I was like big, like hippie, like the crystals. I was like, you know, eating mushrooms. All I just thought like, I was like, this is who I am. I was like, this is my personality. And I really wanted to be with like one of these girl, like, you know, dreadlocks, you know, 17. Yeah, the whole thing. Hairy armpits.
Everything,
no deodorant. Like I was into it. Like I'm still kind of into it.
What,
but,
like smelly?
Yeah, like I don't know.
A bit dirty.
No. And like, you know, the tattoos, the whole, you know, the whole thing.
Broken childhood type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at some point he was like, I was like, yeah, I'm just like into that. And he was like, yeah, but like, is that you? You know, he's like, I feel like you're trying really hard to be like, this is my thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe like you can appreciate it, but maybe it's not you.
Yeah.
And he was kind of right.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I have a little foot in that, but it's like, I'm just never going to be, you know, also like at the festival, I'm like, I just like, you know, like meet somebody and then just like go back to their tent and you fuck. And like, you know, it's like, I'm not going to be comfortable enough to get a boner in that situation.
Yeah. I've been to festivals and like, everyone's like, oh, you want to fuck at this thing? I'm like, nah, it's like, by the third or fourth day, you haven't showered.
Yeah.
And like, you're crusty and fucking like, I don't know about you, but like, I never got this whole like, being horny when you're like hungover or on a come down. I mean, like,
oh no,
like the last thing I'd want to do when I was like the day
I'm
after
not even
partying.
horny like when I'm high. I'm more like I mean, I love the cuddling aspect of it, but I'm not like, oh, and now I really want to like, you know, get into it. And then like ecstasy and stuff, like it makes you kind of like your dick like shrink and stuff.
And like I just never really got. I remember getting head on ecstasy and I just felt nothing. Like the one time I had any kind of sexual thing happen while I was high on like that, and it was just like nothing. Like it was hard, but it was felt nothing because I don't know what it is. But yeah, it just didn't appeal to me whatsoever. But even like the idea of going to festivals now is just like, you can't shower for 4 days and you're like drinking for like 4 days in a row, and it's like, even that seems depressing. Like I remember going to festivals when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19, and you'd see people in their 30s like just off their face on ketamine and stuff, and like falling into tents and stuff, and you're like, being that age, just being like, oh, that's like tragic. Like I do not want to be like that. And, like,
I remember thinking that too. Like when I was like 25, we had a friend who was 32 and he was just like fucked off ketamine, like couldn't walk or whatever. Thing is, now I'm 32.
Yeah, you're 32. I thought you were 37.
And I'm like, it's not that bad. Yeah, no, I'm 37.
You're 37, yeah. But
no, but I think there's it's like there's just certain, you have to find your place and your way of doing it.
So you were faking being into dirty fucking hippie.
I wasn't faking it. I feel like it's very real. It was just like, I'm also like, I also think like I'm also intrigued by like, or I was also intrigued by like goth girls, but it's like
Okay,
I'm not goth. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
You like
you
seeing
know
the scars on their
yeah
arms and stuff.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
the whole thing, but it's like I don't know. Like my parents loved me.
Yeah. I mean, I just think I have two unattainable like everything has to be like super clean and stuff. And I don't know. It's like.
But I mean, I don't want to like. Maybe I asked this as a question. Then it's like since we're talking about it, but it's like for you, like I don't know. From my experience of like meeting gay people, it's like obviously there's like
Gross.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And you're like, why are they doing this? No,
First of all, you're thinking why.
Yeah.
And once you get over that, it's like okay.
Yeah. But like there's like a spectrum of gay people, and you know it's like I know like some I have some friends who are gay who are more like, you know, they're not like, they're just like fucking plain Jane, want to hold hands, have a relationship, you know, whatever the gay equivalent of missionary is.
Just like vanilla, like
you know, like and so like do you associate more with like that kind of thing, or do you feel like I don't fit into that, I'm like depraved, I'm jerking off to dead Russian soldiers, but I also am not like I want to go to the dark room and like
I don't like I could have like I think I could have like a way more sex if I wanted to do that whole like hooking up thing, but it just scares the shit out of me. Like, oh, let's go over to the stranger's apartment and fucking. That's why I'm like, if I do that, I'm like, I need to know from this photo I could take this fucker if like something happens, you know, and then but like.
So you're scared of like the physical.
Yeah, I mean, and then I have issues with like intimacy and like just anything like definitely like internalized homophobia for sure, and like
gay.
just be gay. Get this out of here! Just like rip this apart, like liar. But the fucking like that whole just thing of like just makes me super uncomfortable, which I really need to fucking like work on, you know. But it's like.
Do you talk about that in therapy?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I haven't been to therapy in a while. I mean, I should. I mean, I'm waiting on a phone call from my therapist, but it's more to do with the speech thing that's just like freaking me out, and I want to know if it's like
like a side effect of your medication.
Well, it's like I just took myself off everything because I was like 2 or 3 months. Not everything. This is like so bad, but I.
That's why I was asking. I was like, did this happen last week? Because we
No. It was like slowly, gradually. I did it the right way. I didn't just go, because I know people who've done that and then they just fucking they end up in a hospital. Like, so, especially with the shit I'm taking, it's like dangerous to stop cold turkey. So I did it gradually. I did it the right way. I've been around the block. This has been my life for like 10 years. So I was like, I know what I'm doing. And so I just like weaned myself off most things, because it was like, I'm just fucking tired of this, you know. Like, I'm at a show and I forget to take a tablet, and I'm like, oh fuck, if I take this now, then I'll sleep until like fucking 3 the next day, and then you wake up the next day and then you're like, oh fuck, I forgot to take my dose now, is it too late? And it was just like, this is a hurdle in your fucking. So it's like, and then it's just too expensive as well. I know you should not let money dictate your health. But I'm like, this is too expensive. This is like $120 a month on fucking tablets.
Not killing myself is really adding up.
Yeah, it's like
rent, food, medication.
I mean, like when I
just feel like I'm gonna be more financially solvent if I just end it.
I mean, I knew leaving Berlin was coming, so I was like, I need to like have money, and I'm saving myself like $120 a month. And I was just like, I want to see what I'm like off of it, because I haven't been off it for like, you know, like 4 years. So I want to see what it's, you know, like, and how do I feel and stuff. And even like creatively, like, see what happens.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk to him and see if it's related to that, or else is it just like a stress, anxiety thing, because I know there's like this big seismic shift happening in my life where I'm like leaving here. And like I feel it now. You probably can't hear it, but like my mouth feels like super, like I'm not in control of the fucking muscles in my mouth, and like it feels like my words. It's weird. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
some of the things you say sometimes, I'm like, you don't seem in control.
Yeah. So it's like I say the N word sometimes, and I'm like, it's not me, it's this medical condition. So so it's freaking me out. So I want to talk to him. Like, oh, what do you think's happening? Like, do you think it's like?
But did you notice a creative shift? Like when you weaned yourself off, like did you feel like, oh wow, I'm able to write more or be more effective or something like that? Or?
I mean, I actually definitely felt happier. I mean, I had moments where I was like just walking down the street or something, and I was like, I don't think I felt this content in like years.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking drugs, so it was like I'm not taking medication, so I'm like, this is cool. And everything was going pretty well up until this shit started, and now I'm like, I'm moving to London, and and this thing is happening, and I'm like, what if it's like this thing that I'm gonna have to deal with, and like if it's gonna, affect stand up, and is it gonna get worse? Like I'm a hypochondriac as it is, like, so.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, is it psychosomatic? Is it blah 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 blah? So it's creeping me out. I don't know. I mean, it seems to go away on stage.
That's what you think.
Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah. But then I listen back and I'm like, yeah, no, it sounds okay, but
I honestly never noticed.
But it's like my voice is like. My mouth, this is probably so uninteresting if anyone's like, but I feel like my mouth, I'm not like my muscles in my mouth or something just feels weird, like I'm not in control of whatever, but my brain is fucked, so it's I don't know, it's probably resolved itself.
But like you, so do you think, because we talked about before this, that like maybe, as you said, like you're like you've kind of been here for a few years, you're super established in the scene. Everybody loves you here. You're confident with it. And now you're going to London, to this new place where it's like, you don't know the people running the shows. You have to prove yourself all over. You have to start over. Am I helping?
No, you are. No, you are for sure.
How have you noticed ways in which that stress is like coming out in other places?
I think it's definitely I feel like I'll probably have like some kind of a emotional meltdown whenever I know it's going to be the last time I see everybody, like be it on Saturday or whatever, because I feel like like at New York when we did the big photo thing, I was like, I should be crying right now, but it's like I feel there's like a wall here that my body's like not letting me. And I mean, like, it's it's gonna be fucking hard because it's like 2 years of being here, and like it's like a family.
Yeah.
And it's like you love everyone, and it's like, and then you're leaving that to just go to some alien fucking place. And this is like a home. Like I never thought, like, I'm a real home bird. Like I love home.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never thought I'd feel at home in a foreign country. Because I've been to like a lot of cities and stuff, and all the time I was like, I can never see myself living in another country. Like I always want to like whatever. And then I came here and I was like, I love this place. And then I didn't really foresee leaving until like I don't know what it was, but
like how did the like seed get planted in your head that you were like, maybe I should think about. Going to London, trying something different, mixing things up.
I think like I don't know. I felt like it was. I think everyone. It's like. I think the people who wanna. It gets to a point where everyone's like they make a decision whether they. What does that say?
Your best worst show.
Best worst show. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
There. But I think like I always knew I was gonna leave at some point because I didn't want to stay here forever. I was kind of knew it was only gonna be a temporary thing. How long it was gonna be, I didn't know. And then like we were talking about this today, it gets to a point where it's just like you've done all the shows. Like Grindhouse on Sunday was like the last show that I hadn't done.
Yeah.
And I did everything, and you just become like established, and then and I was like, I always knew it was like London or New York, and then I really thought about New York, this year, which was just stupid because I was like, how the fuck am I gonna afford that? And then I was like, okay, that's not gonna happen. And then honestly, like if I didn't win the fucking competition, I would have stayed here for the summer, but I won that, and I was like, I just wanna, I need a break from. It's hard to explain. Something different, yeah, a new challenge, because I feel like everything good that's come in my life has come from taking risks and being like uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like I always. Like any like leap I've made in fucking anything, if it be creative or personal, has always been like getting uncomfortable and going somewhere that like, which was basically coming here.
Yeah, I was gonna say like exactly
in the middle of a pandemic, like to this city that I fucking like. People thought I was fucking crazy. They're like, oh, how are you gonna survive and blah 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 blah. You're going to Berlin to do comedy? Like what the fuck? And like it was super fucking scary. And now I'm like, I need to go do that again to like. It just feels like it's just the right time. And like I said, if I didn't win the money, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So, but now, sorry, I have to keep reminding you that I won the.
Yeah, well, you know, I knew you needed the money. That's why I tanked on purpose. I tanked it.
Of course. But
like the. So I was talking to, now we're getting very inside baseball, but I was talking to another comedian, Louis, about like he's going to New York.
Hot piece of ass.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone wants to fuck him.
Yeah.
Straight.
He could give me a prostate.
For sure. No dildo fucking needed, man. But anyway, he's
going to New York, and he was like, I just want to like see the level. You know, like I need to know, like I need to be around, go to mics and be like, oh, okay, this is, you know, these are the people who are like fighting to try to make a career out of it in the place where it's, you know, one of the three best, you know, places.
Sorry, I thought you meant like where the three best comics ever came from. But, sorry.
Three best cities to do comedy. I mean, like London, New York, LA, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, is that also, do you feel that where you're like, oh, it'll also give you a better barometer of like, okay, where am I really at?
Yes. And then also just like, I want, like I was talking to this with like, or again, inside baseball, but like older comics, and they're like, why do you want to go? Because it's like, I want to have a fucking career, like a real career where I make money. Like I basically want to get to a point where like I'm doing what I love, but I also have like fuck you money, because I don't want to have to worry about money and my parents worrying about money. And like, because life is just like, you know yourself, like life just fucking throws shit at you. And you're like, if I had money, this would be a lot easier. I mean, like it doesn't buy happiness, but it fucking buys peace of mind. And like, it's like money gives you peace of mind, and it gives you like options. And I'm like, I want a fucking like a real career where you're making like good fucking money, and you also get to do what you want. And a part of you is like, yeah, I want to. If you feel like you could get to the top and be like fucking a successful, well-known comic, like why wouldn't you want to try and do that?
Yeah.
And then like some people are like, yeah, well, that's just your ego. You want to be famous? Yeah. Okay, I want to be famous.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? Like, I mean, doesn't everyone on some level, you know what I mean? Like,
well, and I think it's funny because I think, like, I don't know, this is maybe my own pretentious way of looking at that whole thing. But it's like, I consider like wanting to be famous, it's like being like an influencer or like, you know, whatever. Like, it's like, I just want people to know me or whatever. And like, I want people to like appreciate what I made. You know, like, and like, I remember I told Anya once, like, we were watching Survivor. We were like in this phase where we were watching Survivor all the time, and she was like, you should apply to be on Survivor, and like it might help expose your YouTube channel or whatever. And I was like, this sounds crazy, but like, I don't want people to know me from Survivor. You know, it's like, I want people to be like, oh fuck, like I like that guy's comedy. I like that guy's podcast. You know, I wanted to be something that I'm like, I made this and I'm proud of it. And some people were like, oh, that's worth being proud of.
Yeah, for sure. Like I have the same thing, and it's like there's like a number of things at play where part of you is like, oh, like I wanna. There's like this thing of like I don't know what it is, like part of you wants to like leave some mark on the world, because you like life is so transient, and you can just fucking like you want an ego part of you wants to be like, I want to be remembered for something, you know. And then another part of you is like, oh, your childhood, and if you got bullied and people thought you were worthless and people thought you weren't going to amount to anything, and your part of you is like, I'll show you, and you know,
that's a big part of it.
Big part of it, you know, like you're like, yeah, I'll show you, I'm gonna fucking be big and famous.
Yeah, I'm fucking pretty cool now, huh?
Yeah. But
you want to invite me to my parties
bully
now?
me now, yeah, exactly. You'd be like, yeah, who's laughing now, bitch? I gotta fucking. But yeah, so there's like a lot of things at play, and then there's just like I fucking love doing it. And then you just hear of like Anno and stuff. One of the guys from here went to London, and he's just like, the quality is higher, so it makes you better. And it's just like, why wouldn't you want to put yourself in a scenario that it makes you better?
Yeah.
And then people here are kind of like, well, like that's not like necessarily true. And it's like, yeah, well, you have to go and find out. Like, you can't just take someone else's word for it. You can't just take someone else's word. Like, one person goes and like, yeah, like it wasn't that great, like whatever. That could just be them lying to themselves because they just didn't do well.
Yeah.
You need to go and fucking find out for yourself. And I don't want to have any what ifs when I'm older. Like, oh, what if I went to London and fucking whatever.
Yeah. Well, and also I think the thing is that people also take like life decisions always like when I moved here, for example, it's like people were like, yeah, but then like what are you gonna do? And I was like, or like like they treated it as like, well, so now you're gonna live in Germany for the rest of your life? And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But probably not. Like I'm just like, you just take it as it comes, and like but I mean, it is like, from now we're really getting into like comedy nerd stuff, but it's like and maybe this is also what I tell myself, or maybe it's also the level of comedian that I'm still at, and maybe I'm gonna get to a point where I think more like you. But for me, I'm like, what I'm hoping is the hack of being in Berlin, and like life hack, not hack comedy, is that it's like there's a shit ton of stage time with audiences that I can get where it's like I can really figure out my voice, being comfortable on stage, being comfortable in different comedy situations, my writing and editing process.
Oh, yeah.
And then go somewhere. I mean, for me, probably it'll be somewhere back in the States where it's like I can come in with like a thing and be like, here I am, not fully formed, but pretty fully formed, and hopefully make like an impact that way. Oh, for
sure. I think that's a great way of doing it as well. Like, if you look at people like Mike Rice, like he had an hour when he was in Ireland. So when he went to London, he had an hour. When he came here, he had an hour, so he can tour Europe. You know what I mean? He can do Edinburgh, so he already had cultivated an hour. He went to us. He did his hour in Australia, you know, at the Australian Fringe and stuff. And so that's great. But part of me is like, I am so impatient that it's like it's a blessing and a curse. Like, my impatience has gotten me, like,
it's what makes you good to some extent.
To some extent. And then my impatience is so bad that it's fucked me really badly in my life, where if I just let things settle for just a minute, it would have benefited me. But like,
I quit so many things because I'm like, well, this is all bullshit because I didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but even like with the MMA thing, with like when I got the head injury, I was so impatient to like if I just waited. But look, like I wouldn't be doing this if I'd. But like a part of me was like, if I just waited, if I just been patient and been like, let's just give it like a year and a half, a year, just don't get hit in the head, look after yourself. You could maybe go back and do this thing that you love. But a part of me is just like, no, just fucking now, but it's built in from like childhood stuff and like, like people dying, like my friend dying, and I'm like, I could be fucking, like I'm a hypochondriac, so I'm like, any moment I could just be told I have cancer. So I'm like, everything's impatient, it has to be done now. Like, I need to go now. Like, I fucking have this
an urgency though.
An urgency, which is like, which like you said,
because I mean, I feel it. For me, it's I don't have like quite the cool backstory of like my best friend dying of cancer.
Give it a year.
For me, it feels a little bit. I'm like, because I'm 32. I'm like, I kind of feel like I'm like I am already behind the 8 ball a little bit, I mean, not totally, but it's like it's not like I'm like, oh, I'm fucked because I'm 32, but it's like, if I had stuck with it when I was 22, I would be in a lot better position now, probably, you know. And so I'm like, how can I get 10 years of comedy experience in 7 years? Like, can I?
Which is what you can do here for sure. Because I feel like I've leapfrogged people in. I remember when I was in Ireland and with people hanging out with people who were like more established and they'd done the Fringe and stuff and they ran shows in Ireland, and I was just like this little like, oh, how does things work? And I remember talking to them and them talking about how many shows they'd done, like spots, and them being like, yeah, you know, I've done like maybe 300-400, you know, and they've been doing it for like a while. And then now I'm at a point where I'm like almost at 600 shows, and that's happened in like a year and a half. And I've just leapfrogged them, you know. And it's like you can do that here in Berlin, where I think you've got a great. It's also a great strategy to stay here and just get so fucking good and just have like an hour. And but I'm too fucking impatient to do that.
But then, so that was the what I wanted to get to, is a point about the urgency, which I feel like my take on the urgency is I'm like, I think it is what might make me make it and what might make me good. But on the other hand, I am like aware that I'm like, this is also like not it's making it like comedy makes me happy, but the sense of urgency I feel makes me a little bit miserable, or not miserable, but like crazy, stressed, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's the thing. The only part of it that I actually really enjoy is, you know, doing it on stage. Everything else is like, and it scares the shit out of me that like, oh, maybe a part of having to be successful in this day and age is like putting shit online, which I just fucking hate. Like I hate the thing that it does to your brain, like we were saying before, like the hate, and then you get obsessed with likes and views and comments, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fucking hate it. This is what you have to do to make it, you know, because every time you put a video out there, it's just like you get anxious. You're like, how is this gonna be received? Is this fucking, you know, it's vulnerable. You're very vulnerable, I think, when you put out content, and that's what makes the people who I've always found that people who comment shit like hate or whatever, they're all pussies who don't post any content because they're
of course
they're worried about being judged by people, and I guess we all are, but we just have the balls to do it and put ourselves out there. It's always these fucking pussies who just, they don't do anything creatively. Not that you have to do creatively, but they don't put anything out into the world with the possibility of being judged by people, because they're fucking pussies, and that's why they.
Yeah, the thing also is it's like the easiest opinion to have is a negative one. You know, it's like that's the easiest take to have on anything, is to be like, this is shit, that's stupid, you know, poke holes, whatever. And I mean, sometimes it's also, you know, it's fun to do that sometimes if it's like big movie or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like that, I feel like, is also their like they don't even really have real opinions, and so they're just like, the easiest thing to do is just to be like, oh, this is stupid, you're not funny, you know, whatever.
Which I don't understand, because like, but that's probably because I'm happy with, I mean, I'm a lot of issues, but I'm happy with what I'm doing with my life, so maybe that plays into why I wouldn't, like, I'm on TikTok and you're scrolling and you see so much shit that you hate, because half of my feed is like stand-up comedy, and you see a lot of shit comedy, like really bad, and you just go, oh, that's terrible. Like, no part of me wants to go, you should quit and never do comedy again. Like, no part of me, it doesn't even enter my fucking brain to want to do that. And it's just, I'm like, oh, maybe it's just because I have self-assurance and stuff that I wouldn't want to put that on anybody, like that kind of negativity into people. And,
also, I mean, I think part of the element too is it's like, if you have experienced some level of like suffering or whatever, you're like, well, why would I want to? Yeah. Because like, I don't know. I never like, I know you're right. I also like, if I see something I don't like, I'm never like, oh, I'm going to say something. I'm just like, oh, next thing, this is stupid. Yeah. But the thing that I have to actively stop myself from, which makes me such a boomer, is on Facebook. Like I have like family friends and people who post political stuff, and both sides of the spectrum, conservative, and then there's also kind of like bullshit liberal,
very woke, maybe type stuff.
This kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have to sometimes really, I'll like start to be like, I'm gonna comment and be like, you know, this is stupid because like, and then I'm like, but why do I like? Because I engaged a couple times and I was like, that went nowhere except for made me feel shitty. And
it achieved nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because most people don't want their minds changed on anything really. it's like the Steven Crowder.
Yeah.
When I was like, so I cringe now when I look back at like being, a few years ago where you're watching like SJW cringe videos, liberal tears and all this sort of stuff. I just cringe. And this Steven Crowder guy, and he used to do this change my mind thing.
I remember.
And I'd watch them, and I'm like, oh, this guy doesn't want his mind changed. He's just like, he just knows that it's like, if he says trans women aren't women and he puts it on a thing and it's a YouTube video, it's going to cause like, so it's like no one wants their mind changed. So I never really get into any sort of fucking conversation with anybody about anything too serious, because I'm like, most people aren't open to having their mind changed.
Yeah.
I mean, I am, I guess. It's because you need to let go of like your fucking ego of like thinking that you know everything about everything. But and then it's also like, I find it so hard to like, any part of me, I don't believe anyone who thinks that they know, because it's so hard. Like, I try to like turn this into a bit where it was like, you remember when the news is just the news? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You turned on the news and you went, okay, that happened exactly as they say it happened, and then you just got on with your life. You know what I mean? And now it's like you turn on the news and you're like, oh, well, I know this channel's kind of like left leaning and they've done this and this channel is. So it's like, what is actually fucking happening? So I don't. And then like for every article you read that says one thing, there's a fucking article that says this is all bullshit. So it's like, I don't. Yeah, that's why I don't ever really get into like debates about anything other than maybe stand up.
Yeah.
Because I'm passionate about it, but yeah, I just fucking. It's a waste of time as well. Like,
no, totally. It's that's my whole like. I feel like in the States it was also super hard to escape in like 2016. It was like 2016, then the 2020 election. It was like I really got wrapped up in that shit, and then after that I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna be done with this, and I'm so much happier.
Oh yeah. I wish I didn't have any sort of social media of any description. Like I remember having a 3-year period where I was just working in a gas station and I deleted everything, and I was like, oh, it's just nice,
Was
but
it?
I mean, it was fucking miserable on one hand,
like
but it was nice, just not fucking. But then on the other hand, like you become so unaware of what's happening in the world. Like when you were on social media and you follow like your favorite band, you like fucking think when there's like movies coming out and fucking. And if you don't have social media or you're not like have any online presence, you're like you're just having a fucking breeze what's going on. Because like my older brother doesn't have any kind of fucking thing, and the amount of times I'm like, oh yeah, did you hear this thing that you just think is everyone knows about? And he's like, no. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot you're like not on any kind of thing, which is like
and there's also I have this feeling too sometimes where I'm like, when I meet those people, I'm like that is so adult. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah,
like
it's great. Yeah.
Where it's like where I'm like, oh, you didn't hear about the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial?
I was just about to bring
and
that
like up. And then you're like, yeah, why? Yeah. Why do I know
why?
about this?
Because
so
it's
much?
Entertainment. It's fun. I've been watching it, and it's like, oh, I can't wait until she's cross-examined because I want to see what she has to fucking say. And like, you remember I won't name names, but at Grindhouse, and I was like, who's Team Depp?
Yeah, and I was the only one who woo.
It was like woo. And then, but like I've done that like once or twice, and like 99% of people are like, but then you say who's Team Heard, and there's just like 2 women were like woo, and it's like, oh, these are just women who will like always take women's side. Like, they're just like, no, we have to defend any woman in any situation. Believe all women, fucking like. And I'm like, oh, that just speaks volumes that you're just like, oh, there's legitimate evidence that this bitch is fucking crazy. And you're just like, no, she's a woman. We gotta, you know.
I got a dirty look from somebody when I wooed for.
Oh, did you? Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's.
But
tippy tappy, tippy toey, tippy toey, tippy toey.
I gotta do the.
All right, go for it.
Yeah.
But I've been watching this trial, and like I don't find. I think this is like well known within the people that we know that I don't find anyone older than me attractive. Like it's my age, and down to legal.
Yeah.
And
then it just
stops.
It just stops right there.
Just stops. Whatever the age of consent is in the country that I'm in, it just stops. I'm able to adjust it like this. I'm able to go, boop, boop.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
You know how some people don't see color? I don't see
the
age.
Yeah, it's all just, woo.
Yeah,
But it's all pipes, Jerry. My father's gay. But the fucking... But I'm watching this trial and I'm like looking and I'm like, Johnny Depp he's such a good looking guy and he's like 53. I'm like, fuck, he's such a... I know there's nothing sexual about it, but I'm like, he's such a handsome guy.
He's got cool guy energy.
And I'm watching him, I'm like, oh, the way he says things. It's like the Louis thing. That's what I think is so funny about a straight guy like Louis C.K. admitting that he finds like, because it's not really funny if I say it, because like, yeah, you're gay, but like something really funny about like him admitting that like watching like the Magic Mike thing with like you know, the law says you can't touch, and just being obsessed with the way he says it. Like, I'm watching Johnny Depp and I'm like, I rewind the video 10 seconds to just see the way he says a word. I'm like, oh, it just oozes like. He just says something like, can you say that again? And I'm like, oh, that's... He's like, can you repeat that question? I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And I just rewind it. And I just watch that bit over and over because I'm like, oh, he just oozes this fucking coolness. And I'm like, oh, he's just fucking... I get why people fucking... And she's beautiful as well, but she's like a psycho bitch. I mean, she's got like bunny boiler vibes about her.
Yeah, but I think what I think is funny about it, or one of the things that strikes me funny about it is that... like you see, first of all, like, you know, Johnny Depp is, I think, obviously he's coming across better in the trial than her. Yeah. But I'm still like, oh, you're still like, you're such like a narcissist. You know, like the way he's like, at some point he was talking about his text messages and he was like, I mean, text messages for me are like a canvas and I paint my feelings on the canvas. And you're like, we're talking about a text.
Yeah, you're not like, we're talking about but then you're like, oh, he's a narcissist. But then you're like, if you put yourself in this fucking guy's shoes, you're like, I can totally understand why he thinks that. Even when I watch Jim Carrey and I think he's turned into like an insufferable asshole, but you're like, oh, I can see why their brain goes there because like you win like one little competition in a Berlin comedy thing and you feel like you're kind of like, you know, it's fucking not, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
You're like, am I better than everybody else?
You know what I mean? Like, and you're kind of like, you're like, and I don't, but like you can feel it like, oh, there's something like if you let this, if you let it out, like I could easily see how some people would be like, I won this thing. It's like, can you imagine what it's like to be like fucking, you win a fucking Oscar and you're like the biggest. I can see why he would be. But then a part of he's like, as I was saying to someone, like when I check the news and it's like whatever news website and it's just like Russia, Ukraine, and then right below it is the trial of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and you're like, that just says so much about people that it's like there's equal level of interest in these things. And it's like, why are we interested in this shit? Because it's just, if this is just some fucking homeless guy, or this is like just a regular guy, then like a banker and his fucking wife who's just like a whatever, like, it just wouldn't be interesting. But for some reason it's interesting because there's two famous people, but it is interesting. Yeah, I fucking love it. But
well, and it's also like I did this at Dio's mic last night, but I was
Blackface?
saying, yeah, didn't go over well.
No, I wouldn't say it. It would.
No, but I was talking about the trial, and then I was saying, because I talked to my best friend, he's still alive, on the phone yesterday morning.
Yeah. How's he doing? He's feeling good?
Good.
Check his testicles for lumps. Yeah. Cool. Any headaches?
Good,
he's all good.
So far, so good.
So far, cool.
But but I was like talking to him about the trial, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I was watching the news, and like I heard about it because I was watching the Russia-Ukraine coverage, and then afterwards they were like, Depp," and I was like, and the funny thing is, I'm like, I have watched no Ukraine. It's like I've watched 40 hours of Johnny Depp trial, but I'm like, the war's still happening? Is that still going on?
Yeah, that was so like a month ago, you know? Yeah. But like, it's definitely like, I feel like it's interesting. There's like a crossover between like I was obsessed with the Russia-Ukraine thing. And I remember I said this on stage while it was like just happening. And then it kind of like was like de-escalating, and I was like, no, I want this to, I want it to get worse, because it's like, this is my new favorite show, and it's like your favorite show ending, it's like a season finale of this thing. Like, no, I want the show to keep going. So it was like, the war, it looks like things are gonna get better. I'm like, no, don't get better. No, I'm enjoying this. It's like, and I said that on stage, and I was like, this is coming across as like super, but like a part of me was like, I know that there's people who feel this way because it's fucking entertainment, and when you're so far removed from the situation, then like you are gonna find it as like this, voyeuristic type thing. And now it's just I still follow it, but not to the extent that I did. I mean, when it first started, it was like fucking like every fucking hour I was checking my phone. And then it's just like, now it's just cross paths with the Johnny Depp. Like, it was like here, and then now they're like ships in the night, they're passing, and I'm like more and more caring less about Ukraine, and then Johnny Depp thing is like going up. So it's like, but I love anything crime or like true crime related or anything. Like I watched.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just saying I watched like Tippy Toy, but I watched pretty much not all of it, but I watched a good chunk of both the Kyle Rittenhouse thing and the George Floyd, the Derek Chauvin thing, because I just find it fucking really interesting.
See, that still ties into what I was gonna say, which is like the war in Ukraine. Also, both of those trials. I think actually both of those trials also might have happened while I was on the fishing boat, but those don't appeal to me so much. Like I like the kind of legal drama of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, but what really gets me about it is it's like I love like there's part of me I think that makes me feel right, where I'm like I always thought like, oh, Hollywood is so gross and like whatever, but it's also you're like it's this elite thing and this Hollywood thing.
Yeah, it's entertainment, I guess.
And it's fucking, and also too like one more thing about the trial. We could stop talking about it, but like we could get into the race thing.
Oh, we go into the race thing. Yeah, got a Fritz Cola there.
But I also love too. It's like like you see some of the videos like from the period when they were married, and he's like wearing these like absurd clothes, and you realize like with that age gap also you're like and some of the stuff that she said to him, like
she's like 32 and he's 58.
And you realize like some of the stuff too where she's like you're like a loser, or you're whatever, and it's like like he's got like cringe, like he's the coolest you could be, like when he says these things and he's talking about doing cocaine and all this shit, and at the same time it's like he's wearing these silly hats with like the huge wallet chain, and it's like if you're 30 like and more in touch, you're like, dude, this is lame, you're lame, dude.
And then I thought it was sad that because I think part of him wants to be like a rock star.
Oh yeah.
So he started that band with like some other actor and stuff, and you're like, oh, he's trying to live out some dream of being a fucking rock star or something. I can't remember the name of the band, but it's like him and like some other actor.
Yeah, they toured and stuff.
Where you're like, but I mean, it's just interesting. And then a part of you is just like, I don't know, just be like, one for the men, like, totally. Like, I want to see him win because it's like, fuck you, girls, we got one, Because it's
let's talk about this toxic femininity,
am I right? Yeah, which does exist, like for sure. But because it's like one for the boys. But
not all women though.
Not all women. It's not all women. But
always.
Yeah. I mean, I only let that rip one time on stage, where the white woman thing.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, it's not all white women, but it's always white women when it comes to people getting offended at shit. Like,
that's so genius.
Yeah, but it was like, it's like a funny thing to say, but it's like, I could just tank a fucking show, or a show that's going perfectly well, just to say something like that. Like, maybe it's good to like whip out if it does actually fucking happen. But and I felt bad and I just let go of like there was these two gay guys who were like a couple, like they're like holding hands and they're like at the side of the stage, and I was doing the homeless thing joke, and then they were just like, oh, this is whatever, and then they got up to leave, and it just sparked a fucking thing in me. Like I was just like, it's always the fucking white women, or it's the fucking LGBT thing community. It's always them. Why is it always them? I was thinking out loud, and it wasn't even like trying to be funny. And then like I was just like, you make me ashamed to be fucking gay. These guys are pussies. It's just a fucking joke. Are you homeless? Like, why are you getting offended? And they're just like, fuck you or whatever. Like walking out of the thing. And then I was just like, it's always the LGBT community or the fucking white women, that get annoyed at this shit. And then afterwards, like, some girl was like, I spoke to them, and do you want to know why they left? And then I was like, part of me was like, no, I don't fucking care, whatever. And
I'm gonna love it if it was like they had a dinner res.
Oh yeah. One of them, he got a text saying his mother died. Yeah. And I'm there like, you fucking faggot. Yeah. You can't take a joke. Be more like me.
Gay people.
Yeah. Be more like me. Why can't you all be like me? Be like me. Take a joke, And then they were like, they just like they just don't get dark humor, but they understood it was a comedy show, and they just didn't want to like bring the mood. And I was like, they actually sound like cool guys, Yeah. They were like, because they were sitting in the front row, and then they were like, they just they don't like dark humor, and they just felt like they were very front and center at the show, and they didn't want to like, because like literally every comic that went up was like remarking on how like they weren't enjoying the show.
Yeah.
Like they were like, oh god, you guys fucking seem like.
Which is also, it's funny. It's like, we like when you put on a show, we always like bully people and be like, come sit in the front, go be, Yeah. And it's like, that's also why people don't want to sit in the front. It's like, what if they have like, they're not big laughers or whatever, and then they're like the whole show. It's like, what's your problem?
Yeah, you don't like these jokes?
Yeah.
So like, it's and then I felt bad. I was like, oh god, I really like let rip on those guys for fucking no reason. Like they're probably nice gay gentlemen, I probably could have fucked them if I wanted to, but
could have taken him to a dark room.
I could have taken them to a dark room and just got crazy. But I mean, even like I know a lot of people who are like I don't know if you've ever been propositioned after shows for sex by women. No. Never. No. I mean, like I know some people who sling dick with audience members, and I've been approached a few times
by women,
but again, once or twice by women, but it was never like, and this is so funny because I said some people like, but I have no reason to lie. I have no horse in the race to be like, I get hit on women all the time. Like this is whatever. But like, there's 2 or 3 times, and they're like fucking really pretty women, and I was just like, whatever, because I might think that the gay thing was a joke or whatever, and but then I've been hit on by guys, and I'm like, why can't you be like 18? Like, it's like some old queen,
Yeah.
If I was into that dude, my fucking asshole would look like this, Like, I would be fucking in heaven here,
Yeah.
But it's always just people who are like, in their like older than me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh god, can you just be like
not older?
Just be like 19, You just be 19 and just like, damn, that'd be great. Like, you're get in a time machine and just come back and. So like, if I could feel like I could have. Fucking,
but do they like? Because like I feel like once or twice, like one time recently at a show, I was like on last, and I had like just like one of those sets where it's just like killer. It was at Valentina Strusa, or whatever.
Yeah.
And afterwards, the girl was like hanging around with her friend, and I thought they were a couple, and then I found out they were friends, and I was like, is this a thing?
Yeah.
But this is also why I never got laid when I was single. Is like my first thing is I'm like, no, there's no way,
Yeah. You need to. That's when I look back and I go, there's like a couple of times where I look back and I'm like, I probably.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely, and my self-confidence was just like, nah, are you crazy?
Yeah, exactly.
But I look back now and I'm like, I definitely could have.
Yeah. They asked you, do you want to sleep over? Yeah. And you were like, oh no, I should really get home.
Yeah, I should really, It's like, because your self-confidence is like, nah, they'd never be interested in me. But, I mean, like there was this one time at the Wall, at the comedy club, I don't remember that, and fucking Abby was outside and she got talking to this fucking gay guy. And it turned into a bit, the hookup bit.
Yeah.
And she was just like, it kind of fucking annoyed me at the time, but whatever. women, and she was like, she was like, oh my god, my friend Rob, he's gay as well. Like, do you want to like have sex with him or whatever? And then she came in and she was like, oh, I found a guy for you. You want like he said he'll fuck you, and I'm like, this just does the gay stereotype. Just no favors. That there's this gay guy like, oh, he's a dick. Like, I don't even know what he doesn't care what he looks like.
If there's a dick, I'll fuck
you. But I just don't care. Like, just show me, and I don't even care what he looks like. And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I don't fucking. And then like all of a sudden, everyone in the room was like, blow him. And I'm like, I don't know what he looks like, and I don't know. And there's like this weird pressure to like. I was like, let me see what he looks like. I'm not gonna fucking whatever. And then I went up on stage, and she was like, he's sitting in the front row. And I was like, oh, of course, yeah. And I went up, and I just straight away was like, I don't want to fuck this guy. But I went up.
You're like, this guy's like 35.
Yeah, this guy's like 19. Yeah. I was like, you're way too old for me, you know? And I go up, and I was kind of, it was at Tyrone's show, Crazy Stupid Berlin. So it was kind of fitting that, because the show, my set was kind of tanking. And I was like, I know what will rescue this. I'll bring up this situation that's happening. Yeah. And it was killing. Like, it was killing that I was like, oh, you're the guy that... And I explained the situation. And then it was funnier to play into, like, I'm going to fuck you after the show, you know? Yeah. Even though I had no intention. I was like, I was like, oh, yeah, fuck this set. Like, let's just go now. Like, and I pretended to get off stage and whatever. And, like, it was killing. And then I was like, only after the show, I was like, oh, fuck, he's going to be like, come on. Yeah. So we were in the green room of the wall, and we're standing there talking, and then he just appears at the door, and he's like, hey. And I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit. And he just came into... Dude, it was one of the most awkward experiences of my life, because it was like me and like 3 other comics and whatever. And he came into the room, and everyone knew who he was. And he came in, and he was like, hey. And he just came in, and I was like, yeah, hey, what's up? And it was just like silence. Like everyone in the room was quiet. Yeah, everybody was like, "Are they gonna fuck right here?" Fuck right here. And then everyone was just like, and then he just got the vibe that like, you know, oh, this isn't. It was a joke. It was a joke, which, you know, I should have been like manned up and been like, yeah, look, dude, it was just a joke. I don't have any interest in this. But I was too much of a pussy, and I just went, oh yeah. And then he eventually got the message, and then he left. And then, like, literally, like, a week later, I do a show, and I go on stage and I go, look who it is. And he's sitting there, and he's just like, yeah. He's like, do you want to fuck me now? And I was like, no, nothing changed. And then that got a laugh, because then I explained the situation to the fucking people in the thing. But I was saying this to someone recently, that, like, what's a better way of handling... Because I know when I go... I'm very superficial, like, with... like, I don't get these people who are like, you know... oh, this is more than looks, you know. It's not all about looks. I'm like, no, for me, it's all about looks. It's all superficial. I feel like it's not like it's all, for me. It's not that it's all about looks, but it starts at looks. It starts at looks. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I would fuck you because you're attractive, and then you talk to them, and you're like, oh, I would still hang out with you afterwards because you're cool, and then I've had it. Yeah, no. In fairness, I've had it twice where I've fallen in love with people who, when I first met them, I was like, well, whatever, like not in a minute, like no sexual interest whatsoever. And then you get to know them, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not such a fucking superficial dick, but for the most part I am. And like, there's been times I went on dates and I've known like straight away, like, oh, I just no. And I want to get back to, I have like a funny story about like this guy who like kind of catfished me, and he kind of posted photos of when he was 19. He showed up, and but it was kind of like that where he was 19 because he was in college and stuff, and because we had like mutual people, even though like I was maybe like 20. What age would I have been? 22, 23, and he was like 19, and I knew he was legal, and because he was in college and we knew mutual people. And so then I went. You don't have to explain it. You know, I think I really do. I need to like hammer home, because what I'm gonna say next is like. So we went on this date, and then I remember I met, and like I was like, of course this happens. This is like the first date I've been on in fucking so long, and I see this girl that I'm in college with, or I was in college with, and I see her, and and she's like, oh, what's happening? He's like, oh, I'm going on a date. And she's like, oh my God, you're going on a date. And like in her head, she's probably thinking like, oh, he's going on a date with some like fucking dude, you know, like same age or whatever. And then I'm like, okay. Oh, I'm going to go. And then I went and I met the guy, and I'm like, he fucking looks like he's like a teenager. Like he looks like he's 19, but he looks like he's like 16. Like he looks.
And you're like, this is so
it
hot.
looks, yeah. And I'm just like, this is so, and there's so many people around, and it's like, oh, it feels so wrong, but it feels so right. And I was like, oh fuck, like you look way younger in person. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, this fucking, and then I remember like, I was like, oh yeah, so you want to go get something or whatever? And they were like, yeah. And I remember walking past her, and her just giving me the biggest like fucking you creep, you know, like one of these looks. And a part of me want to be like, no, he's legal. Like I wanted to be like, show him your ID, like, because I was so like
But that's funny. Like you were 23. That's like, to me, it's not like okay necessarily to like. To
be toey.
But I mean, I'm just saying, like 23 is still quite young.
Yeah, I mean 23, 19 is like,
yeah.
I mean, like I'm 20. I said this to someone, again, tippy toey, and who really shouldn't have any leg to stand on when it comes to like sexual whatever. And I was like, I'm 28, and I was like, I would fuck an 18-year-old in a heartbeat. Like, I was like, I wouldn't date an 18-year-old, but I'd fuck an 18-year-old. And they were like, treating me like a pariah. Like, are you fucking kidding me? I was like, 18-year-olds are hot. Like, they're fucking hot. Like, I don't believe anyone who says they don't want to fuck them. I mean, like, being
I'm straight, so I'm not allowed to admit that.
Yeah.
I feel like women my age are so beautiful.
Yeah, but like, I mean, like I get the part of you that like are part of people that's like, they're hot, but like I think it's acceptable to be like, yeah, I mean, like they're hot, but I would morally object to it because I feel like there's an age gap and a power dynamic or whatever. I don't have that, so I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm a bad person. I was like, I fucked them, like, you know what I mean? They're 18. I was like, I'd never be in a relationship with an 18-year-old because, like,
what a nightmare.
It'd be a fucking
They're
nightmare.
A child.
Yeah, you're a child. I wanted to. This reminds me of the thing I wanted to a bit. I was like, where I wanted to be like, I was like, why did I want to fuck them? Because they're 18. I was like, why don't I want to be in a relationship with them? Because they're 18. Because they're a kid, you know. And so I was like, so this girl was just like, I could just see she was just like, you fucking creep, and I want to be like, he's fucking 19. I can't help that he's. Whatever. Yeah. But like, what I was gonna say was that like, I mean that day went well, and we once or twice and we hooked up or whatever. But I've been on dates where I just straight away knew I was like, no, I have no interest. And then I'm too much of a nice guy. I know some people would probably be like, I just, at the end of the date, they'd be like, I had a nice time, but whatever. But I just didn't have that in me. So and I would do such a good job of pretending that I had a good time that I think they were like, oh, something magic is happening here. So then like, when following up afterwards, they'd be like, oh, do you want to meet up again? And then I'd be like, no, I just didn't. And then a part of them was like, but you had I was like, we had a great time. And I was like, no, I just did a really good job of pretending I was having a great time.
You had a good time.
You had a good time. I just did a really good job of pretending that I had a really good time. And then, that fucking sucks. But, yeah.
But it is like, there is also an interesting dynamic, I feel like, in the gay community in general, that like, the age thing is somehow less of a like I mean, a 40-year-old can have a relationship with a 20-year-old, and it's not really like it's not looked down upon in the same way
for sure.
of like a heterosexual.
Oh, for sure. Look at Stephen Fry.
Yeah,
like, I'm pretty sure he's in his late 50s, 60s, and his husband is in his 20s.
Yeah,
which is like, but I think that's because it's two men. So it's like, oh, men can fend for each other. There's not a vulnerability.
Yeah, the patriarchy isn't fucking them, so they can fuck each other.
Exactly. So it's like there's no vulnerability of like men taking advantage of women. It's just like, oh, they're two men, just let them have. I mean, some people will think it's fucking creepy to have that dynamic, that age gap or whatever. But
I feel like I remember this is maybe a weird reference to make, but like I couldn't imagine, like, yeah, the sexual thing, I can kind of, like, I can get it. I saw a hilarious reel or TikTok or something recently, and this guy, like, approaches this girl in a store, and he was like, it's one of these things where he's, like, doing a dumb pickup line, to get, you know, and he, like, asked for a number, and then she was like, how old are you? And he's like, old enough. Yeah. And then he's like, why? Like, how old are you? And then she's like, I'm 16. And he's like, and the best part about the video is you're like, I also was like, what?
Yes.
Like, you look like you're 20, you know? It looks,
Yeah. That's the thing, because there's 18-year-olds who look like they're in their 20s. So it's like, but I saw that, and the guy just goes, whoop, and he just walks away. And then a part of me is like, why would you upload that? Why would you? But, I mean, like, yeah, like, the last time I hooked up with someone was, like last year, the end of last year, and I was 27 and they were 20 or 21, and it's all fun and games when it's hooking up, but afterwards I was like, oh, there's such a disparity here in maturity. Like, I was just like, they're just like on their phone on like TikTok, just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like fucking, like, they're just talking about
they're posting negative comments on your
on my videos, like, who's this fucking hack, like, but they're like, you really look like this comedian that I fucking hate. But it was just like all just like surface level fucking bullshit, just like, oh, I just can't wait to go out this weekend, just get fucked up and just fucking, you know, and like, just real, like, you know, the biggest problem in their life was that, you know, where I can't, do you know how I can get weed from, you know, like this type of stuff. And I remember just lying in bed being like, oh God, being in a relationship with someone this young must be fucking, like, would be really weird, unless they were like hyper mature for their age. But which is like, isn't that like such the line of like people justifying fucking young people? Like, no, he's mature for his age. He's so mature for his age.
But even if someone is mature, like, I remember I did the podcast once with this comedian lady, and I didn't realize how young she was. And then we started, like, you know, I'm like interviewing, I'm getting to know her, and like I'm like, oh, you're like, I don't know, I can't remember how old she was, but she's like 22 or 23 or something. And so then we're starting to talk about things, and I'm like, oh, so like I was like asking her about her childhood or whatever, and she was like, yeah, like, you know, Snapchat was like a big thing when I was in like middle school, and I was like, Snapchat was a big thing when you were in middle school? Our point of cultural reference, like, you know, we you know, not even, we have like what, like an 8-year gap or something like that. And I was like, but still there's like a big, like, the references are, you know, like, and like I mentioned like some movie, and they're like, oh, I kind of remember, like, you know, that was out or something. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, this was like a huge thing.
I had that exact thing with, I worked in this, and I fucking hated it. I worked for this company, and I still technically am on the books as an employee, but is
that something we need to cut?
No, but no, it's fine, fuck them. But they were like, it's so funny how they'd have the
the company rhyme with Kakaganda?
No, like, that was all off the books. There's no record of that. But they were like this events management company that would throw these like real like fucking like lavish parties for, like, you know, Google and Amazon and fucking all these like restaurants, and like it was all really like talk about like vanity and like fucking. Do I have a booger in my nose?
No, you're good.
And and it was just so funny. I worked for the crew section, which was like all the manual labor, putting together, you know, oh, this is, you know, they need this sculpture of a fucking, you know, they need this, you know, big swastika painted on the walls, or, you know, they need this cross to be put in someone's garden and set on fire, you know, this kind of stuff. So they would, I had to do all that stuff, and all the crew members were just like me and you, just like rough around the edges, beard, tattoos, like fucking a little bit older. And then all the brand ambassadors who were like front of the thing were just like these smoking hot, like male and female, like 18 to never older than 22, 23. All college students, just all like models, like, and fucking, but then they'd have this one fat girl that was just to be like, no, we're not completely, you know.
We're body positive.
Yeah, we're body positive. They just have this one stumpy fat bitch who was just like, No, we're not totally, whatever. So I worked for them, and but then sometimes I'd have to like work with the brand ambassadors. And I remember one day we were like packing boxes for something, and fucking something happened, and then I referenced, in Friends, the Joey with the muffin thing. He was like, "Oh, raccoon came in." You know what I mean? And then someone's like, "Where did you take my thing or whatever?" And I was like, "Oh, a raccoon came in or whatever." And then it bombed. And then I was like, that's a Friends reference." And then I swear to God, they were like, "Friends? What's Friends?" And then I was like, "Oh fuck! Like you're 19, or like you're 18, 19. I'm 25, 26, and I'm like, oh shit! Like there's this huge." And then they were talking about Jumanji with The Rock and Kevin Hart and stuff, and they were like,
I love Jumanji. Kevin Hart is amazing.
Yeah, this is what happened. They go, "Oh yeah, the Jumanji movie came out or whatever." Oh, that's what we were, because we were setting up something for the Jumanji premiere in Dublin. So we were setting up all this shit for the premiere, and I was like, they should just left the original.
Yeah.
As it was, and then they were like, "The original? What?" And I felt like fucking backhanding this bitch, because I was like, "You don't know about the original with Robin Williams?" She was like, "What original? This is the original."
Who's Robin Williams?
Yeah, who's Robin Williams? I was like, "Oh, you dumb bitch! Like this is like." I was like, oh, now I feel old. I think that was one of the first times I was like, oh shit, I'm like not a kid anymore. It's so cringy to be like, I'm 28. I'm like, I'm getting old. But like, I remember, that was the first time I was like, oh shit, there's a big gap here in fucking cultural references or whatever. But that was, it was funny. Robin Williams. There was a guy who headlined Cosmic like 2 weeks ago, Scott Capurro, who was in Mrs. Doubtfire. Did you hear about this?
You told me that he was on the lineup.
He was on the lineup, yeah. And then I was like, oh shit, like Mrs. Doubtfire is like one of my favorite fucking movies, and he's in it. And I wanted to be like, fucking like talk to him about it or whatever. And then, first of all, I got like my internalized homophobia went off the charts because he was an older gay man. So I was like, oh, he just wants to fuck me. So I wanted to get away from him very quickly. So he was like watching my set. I could see him in the audience. And then I walked off stage, and then he came into the green room, and he was like, oh, I really liked your set or whatever. And I was like, oh, thank you very much. And I wanted to stay and watch the set and then hang out afterwards and be like, oh, what was Robin Williams like? And Mrs. Doubtfire is like one of my favorite movies of all time. So it's crazy. But I had to run to like another set, and then part of me is like, this is so like embarrassing, but I'm like, oh, I'll follow him on social media and he'll follow me back. And then I follow him, and then he doesn't follow me back, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna unfollow him again. So then I unfollowed him, and then he added me on Facebook. And I was like, oh, he knows who I am, so I'll follow him again on Instagram. So then he followed me back on Instagram. Because all about the Instagram followers, you know?
Of course.
So I'm like, so he adds me on Facebook.
Isn't it also the funniest, it's like the lowest moment when you're like, that like there's like a clout kind of chase follow that you want to have.
Oh, yeah.
And you follow them, and you know that they should follow you back, and then they don't, and you're like, am I gonna have to unfollow and refollow and kind of be like, hi?
I've done that, dude. Dude, like this is cringy as fuck. Like so I did that with this guy. So he added me on Facebook, and I was like, oh, so he knows who I am. So then I followed him on Instagram again, and I'm like, dude, you have 7,000 followers. You saw my work. Just fucking whatever. Follow me back. But I've had that with people where I followed them, and you take it so personally that you're like, I met you at a show last night, and I said, we both. I was like, oh yeah, we met and we talked, and I followed you the next day, and you didn't follow me back. And I'm like, fuck you. I just really gets my goat. I'm like,
there's a couple comedians here in the scene that I have it, and I'm like, all right, I see what you're doing there.
I see you, yeah. I see what you're doing.
And we message all the time on Instagram, so I'm like,
yeah. There's a couple of comedians that this is so pathetic, but there's comedians like who followed me that when they followed me, I was like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like really fucking like, I was like, oh, this is an achievement, but it's so pathetic when they do. And it was like, but I remember, and then this is this annoying thing where like I'm hovering at like 8. And this is, I don't know if it's more of, it's like a combined thing of OCD plus clout chasing, where I'm at like 899 and I want the 900.
Of course, yeah.
And every time it's just like you check and it's just like 898, and then you get a follower 899. Check again 897, and you're like, what? You're fucking, and you're following people, and you're like, but then you feel it as well. I get it as well, where people follow me. I'm like, I'm not following you, and then you know what I mean. Even though it's totally a hypocritical situation.
Well, and there's a weird dynamic on Instagram where you're like, you want to have. You don't like you know when you see someone's like, oh, you have 1,000 followers, and then you look
3,000 people.
Exactly, and you're like, oh, okay, so then that means nothing.
Yeah,
you know. Then, so then you're like, oh, I have to keep my numbers down.
Yeah.
And
sorry, imagine you say to them, they're like, I want to follow you, but like I need to keep my numbers down.
Yeah.
Let me look at the numbers, and then I'll see if I follow you or not.
I even worse. I probably shouldn't admit this, but it's like now also like being just slightly more established in the scene here.
Yeah.
Occasionally there will be like a new comedian, and they follow me, and I'm like.
You're like in Gladiator, you're like, I'm not gonna follow you. Let's see
start a mic.
Give me some spots, and then we're like, just tell a joke. You know, we're fucking. Who's this guy? Oh, this is my. This is my therapist.
This is your therapist.
Yeah, this is probably when we pause it.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, let's pause it just briefly.
Unless you want to do it on there.
Hello. Hi, Audie. How are you? Retain the ability of.
Well, just like that if I'm like, are people
still listening,
still up for this? You know, like I personally, when I listen to podcasts, I mean, like that's why I got into like Pete Holmes' podcast, for example. Is the first podcast I liked was WTF with Mark Maron.
Oh yeah.
And but my big beef with it was I was always like, you know, they would be talking about their stories about coming up in comedy, and it'd be like after 45 minutes, just like, all right, that's it. And I'm like, oh, I want so much more.
Yeah.
So like I love like podcasts that are like 2 or 3 hours sometimes, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like when nobody cares who you are, it's a bit more like...
I have like 1 or 2 people who, maybe a handful of people who have like, but I know them, like they're not comics, or they're just people that I've known through the years who are like, they listen to anything that I'm on, which is like pretty cool. I mean, that they're interested to that extent. Dude, this is like fucking talking about like, are we on?
We're on.
Oh,
I mean, we can also like cut it.
Cut it. Tippy toe. What did I just say there? Because I got worried.
Your friends.
Oh yeah, friends who like listen. But I was gonna say something else, but I won't say. I'll save that afterwards. But with the comedian following thing, like if it's a comic who follows me, I kind of always follow them back. Because it's like, we're all trying to do the same thing here. But if it's just some like randomer from like after a show or something, it's like
I feel like those people specifically you shouldn't follow.
No, I don't follow them. No, I'm like, why would I follow you? I don't fucking want to see your bullshit.
Also, for me, I'm like, if it's like a comic in the scene, but I'm like a random comedian who follows me, yeah.
Isn't it so funny how it's just a little bit of experience, and you're like, nah.
Well, but it's, I mean, I see what they're doing, you know, but I'm like, and I don't have beef with it, but I'm also trying to do the same thing, and I don't know if it.
As long as it's mutual. If you're a comic, I'll follow you back. Like, you know what I mean? Because we're all trying to do the same thing. Like I said, if it's just some fucking random, I'm like, well, I don't want to fucking follow you. There's no. That's so obnoxious to say. But
the thing about the like, friends or like people listening to like shows that you're on and stuff. This is gonna be super narcissistic, but since we're already on this,
sure,
path,
let's go. Yeah.
But I somehow don't get why more people from my high school or like from my college years are not super interested to see the stuff that I'm doing. Because, and I only mean that as a point of reference. Like I remember a kid I went to high school with. He like made his own movie, like a feature-length film. He like wrote it, shot, directed it. Some kids from our high school were in it, and he posted it on YouTube. And it was like, no offense to him, it was not like super good.
Yeah, you want to say
movie.
his name?
Yeah, shout out Taylor Pete.
2 first names. It's never good.
But He rapped when
Taylor
we
Pete, you suck.
Yeah. The music was good. No, but the thing is, I watched the full 90 minutes and I was like fascinated to watch it because I'm like, oh, this is a dude I know who made this, and that in itself makes it interesting. And so I kind of feel that way about like my podcast or some of the stuff I've done, where I'm like, oh, if I were like Joe Blow kid who went to school with me and I came across this, I would be like, oh, this is...
I wonder how this guy's doing.
Yeah, like,
you know?
this is like interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I don't... a lot of people from my high school and stuff, I don't think they fucking follow me or whatever, but yeah, it's cool. Occasionally I'll just get a DM like, oh, listen to that podcast, and like, I think it's interesting. I mean, like, we're nobodies, but I try to like, I think we know when it's entertaining and it's funny, and it's like, I'm like, yeah, I mean, if I came across this, I'd probably listen to it, but then that's totally biased because you're like, of course you think you're brilliant and you're interesting or whatever, where some people might think it's boring as fuck. But I mean,
but it's also, I totally, I agree. But it's an interesting thing. That's a good way to look at it because, for example, I'll shout out another podcast, the Adults Only podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Hosted by Anna Barros, which is all like sex themed, you know?
Did that twice as well.
Yeah, I know. And that's actually what I was going to get to.
Yeah.
Is like, I listen to her podcast and I find it like, I know the guests, and it's interesting to hear them, you know, talk about their thing. But I also remember specifically like when I first showed up here, and then like I listened to your episode, and I didn't really know you. Like, we had said like, what up, and then you're listening to this and you're like you were talking about being in the hotel with the guy or whatever, and I'm like, I feel like I shouldn't, like, this is either for a stranger or like someone who knows, like a casual acquaintance shouldn't listen to. And maybe it's the same with this. Like, I keep making jokes about your best friend.
No, I think it's hilarious. You know what I mean? That's because when you're on a thing, you're like, oh, I'd find this interesting if there's some person telling a fucking weird story about them. And as well, like, if someone on a podcast that, like, if I said you did a pod with someone, I'm like, oh, Pat's hilarious, I'll listen to that. Like, I'm not going to listen to someone who I don't find funny, because I'm just like, yeah, you can be as interesting as you want, but I like, this is why I need a podcast that there's some kind of humor in. I can't listen to fucking something that's too serious all the time. But I mean, I
used to be able to, but that was when I was very depressed, and I would listen to like new age spirituality podcasts.
Oh, nice. So when you were drinking in the park,
nice. Same time.
Same time.
I was searching for something.
That's what you were drinking. But I feel so much more comfortable doing this now. I mean, the first podcast I think I ever did was what was the first podcast I ever did? I think it was what's the first podcast?
One in Ireland, or was it here?
No, it wasn't. It was it was Mike Rice's podcast. Talk about like fucking doing a first podcast. I mean, like, that guy is like, this is gonna be really weird if he listens to this, but like, I fucking love that guy, and it's weird now that we're like fucking. This is like probably not interesting to anybody who's not know who he is, but
Mike Rice, if you don't know who Mike Rice is,
you should know who he is.
Like, check out his shit, because he is hilarious.
And I think I
don't know him personally at all, but after we did the show, he friend requested me on Facebook, and I was like, oh
yeah. He's the guy who followed me, and when he followed me, I was like, oh. Like, it was this weird fucking thing, and I've always meant to say it to him because I think he'd find it hilarious that like but like, it's weird because like I'll go back to the podcast thing, but like he like when I started stand up I should probably tell him this because he'd find this hilarious. Like, when I started, like, Mike, I'm sure he's gonna break at some point soon. I mean, he's amazing, and I when I started in Ireland, he was like the guy, you know, like, he wasn't famous, but everyone was like, he's the fucking guy. Like,
it's like when in the movies, like in like the bad neighborhood, and someone's like super good at sports, and they're like, you got to make it out for all of us.
Yeah, it's like the Goodwill Hunting thing. It's like, if you're here in fucking town, I'm gonna fucking hit you. You know what I mean? It's literally like that.
You know what the best part of my day is?
Yeah. I was There's people so he was like the guy. He'd been on Irish TV, and he kind of got shafted. He was like, and this is a whole thing. He was on Irish TV to win our version of like fucking, the Jimmy Kimmel whatever. They had this.
But it was a comedy competition.
It was a comedy competition, but it was like organized by like the equivalent of like Jimmy Kimmel doing a fucking thing or whatever.
So like he was kind of a late night host.
And he got onto this final thing, and he was so obviously the best comic, and they gave it to a woman, and it was very obvious that it was done. He was even, I don't even want to, whatever. But at the time that it just happened, and so he was like the guy, and I was like, he was the first guy, because you go to open mics and like everyone, you're like, and part of what, and it's so common when comedians say it, like even famous comics on podcasts where they go, a lot of the inspiration is them when they start going, I can do better than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can at least, I mightn't be funny, but I can do better than that. He was like the first guy I saw come on, and I was like, oh, this guy's like the real deal. Like, he's going to be a thing. He's going to be, like, he's got this star touch that I was like, so I immediately was like, I fucking just really admired the guy. And so then it was so funny if he listens to this, but then I met him like once or twice, but just as I'd started stand up, and he was always like super fucking nice, like, and like he just like talk to you about like, I remember I did a bit about I had this bit that was like I was like and it's like that pressure, and I got it here where it's like if someone in the room that you really respect and they're seeing you for the first time, you're like, oh fuck, I want to impress this person.
Yeah, totally.
When you think about it, we're all such fucking like egotistical fucking narcissistic pieces of shit. But I was like, he was watching, and I was like, oh fuck, I really want to nail this. And I did one joke about like, oh, I'm on the vegan diet. The hardest part about it is that you have to like hunt vegans, and it was just like this thing about whatever. And I remember afterwards he was just like, that's a fucking great bit. And then just hearing that from him, I was like, oh, like I was like, it really meant a lot, you know what I mean? Like, I really meant a lot. And then whatever, and then I didn't see him. He moved off to London or whatever, and I didn't see him. And then through the pandemic, I was like, he was just this guy that like immediately when I met him, this is getting way too fucking inside baseball. But when I met him, I was like, I really want to be friends with this guy. And it's not because of any fucking social climbing thing. I was just like, he's just a person that I wanted to be. I was like, I know that I was like, I want to get to know this guy. He's hilarious. He's a fucking cool guy. Well, and I was just like, to cut in, and again, I've put in all my chips on narcissism today on the podcast. Yeah. But I think there's an element of doing comedy that is just being likable. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, you hear everybody loves you. You know what I mean? Like, even people who are like, that joke was a little bit like, they're still like, but I love Rob. Said the N-word, he's like, we gave the N-word pass, yeah. But it's like, and when I like, one of the things that like spurred me to be like, okay, I want to try to do comedy again, is like I was talking to my best friend who's still alive. That's number 3? I think? Yeah, that's number 3. We're just keep going. Comedy comes in threes. Yeah, rule of 3. You gotta do it. But he was like, dude, like when you come to like visit me, like all my friends, like they love, like they really like, everybody's always like, oh, I love Pat, like, and he was like, because I was kind of being like, I want to do it, but I don't know, and he's like, you should go for it, like people, you have something that people are like, I like you, and so I think it's that same thing when you meet someone or like someone as funny as Mike, where it's like, it's not just that he's funny, it's also like there's a likability and an energy that you're like, oh fuck, I want to shoot the shit with that guy. How can I shoot the shit with him?
That was it, man. Like we were talking about, I know it's like, when you're talking about like just getting to shoot the shit with people, I was like I said, it was nothing to do with like climbing a career ladder. It was like, I want to spend time with this dude. I just know if I hang out with this guy, it's just going to be so much fun. And he's got a magnetism, and I was like, I just want to fucking be around this dude, and I just know nothing sexual. Like
too old.
But I was like, dude, I just fucking I want to be friends with this dude. I could just know that it'd be awesome. And then so then like during the pandemic or whatever, I was doing thing, and then I'd listened to his podcast. You should listen to
it's on Spotify. He only does Patreon now, but he has this hilarious podcast. It's his very first episode of his podcast, and it's hilarious because he said, made this podcast because I thought I was going to win this competition, so I wanted all my followers to come listen to this thing. So the first episode of his podcast is him basically having a nervous breakdown that he lost the competition, and he's hungover and he's like recording it in his bed, and he's just like, and whatever. So I listened to his podcast, and I gotta be DMing him like, dude, I know your podcast or whatever, and then I always felt like I was annoying him, Yeah. I was just like, oh, fuck, am I texting him too much? I felt like I was like a needy girl, Like I was like, am I texting too much? Is this annoying? Oh, this is whatever. I was like, am I being like a basic bit? I could fucking like sliding into his DMs too much. And then he came to Berlin, obviously. And then we just clicked, and I love the guy. Like, we're very close friends now, and to go back to what I originally said, was the very first podcast I did was his fucking podcast. And I was like, fuck, and I felt like such a pressure to fucking be funny, and I listened back, and I cringe because it was like, now I find it super it's super natural. I feel like just. Yeah, I find it very easy now, but like that time I was like, I felt so much pressure to be funny and interesting, and when you try too hard to be funny, you just become the most unfunny person on the face of the earth. So it took like a good half an hour into the thing where I felt like I was actually. You start to be yourself. You start to be yourself. Yeah, for sure. And you're like, the whole time you're like, is this interesting? Does anyone really want to fucking listen to this? And blah 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 blah. And but yeah, like talk about doing a pod for the first time, doing his pod, and I was just like, oh fuck, like it was.
I mean, that's also for me. It's like part of, and I we've talked about this before, like not on the show or whatever, but like it's part of why I think I'm like more people should do podcasts, and it's a good thing to do because like. I feel like the way the landscape of comedy now is like there's a good chance that like one of your breaks, along your way to finding some success is going to be someone being like, come on my podcast. And if you've never been on a podcast and you're like, oh, fuck,
I'm pretty sure that was like one of the first I ever did, if not the first. And the pressure was just insane. I felt like if he heard me talking like this, he would like, fuck off. Like, we're literally just shooting the shit on a fucking podcast. Like, but that's why I always, like, if anyone was starting, again, here's me doing this for 2 years, giving advice. But like, I think I said it to like someone, maybe Louis or Bruno. I was like, do all the podcasts. Like, just do every fucking podcast. It's good. It's fun. And it's also just a good thing to do to get yourself out there. And also, like, you can come up with bits on podcasts.
It's good. It's practice. Like, I was talking to Dan, who does the podcast festival here, and he was like,
Dan Stern.
And he was saying he said two things that I thought were really like good. Which one was, he was like, I think people sometimes think that if you're doing a podcast or even if you're doing comedy, that like you have to be trying to make it. And he's like, I think there should be space for it's like, this is a great hobby.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
It's so much fun.
Imagine getting paid to do this. It'd be fucking amazing. That's why I listen to Tuesdays and stuff, and I'm like, or you listen to Opie and Anthony, I'm like, they got to just do this for a living and like fuck with people or whatever. And it's so yeah, it was
and you don't like, I think, I mean, also you're you're so poor.
I'm very poor. Very poor.
But, I'm also not rich. Not as poor as you, but
rich. This is opulence compared to the fucking way I live. Like,
but something my godfather said to me, I think he regretted it later, but
he said, Pat, you're a faggot.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, I should have called you a dyke.
Yeah. This is the thing my godfather said to me. He said, pull down your trousers and bend over. But, he said, this is the thing, is that don't tell your parents about it.
Yeah. Our little secret.
I was trying to think of the best thing to say. I think.
But one time he was talking about his friend who was an actor, and then he stopped acting. And I was like, why did he stop acting? And he was like, the thing is, when you get older, once you make it to a certain amount of money, it's really hard to go back to being that level of poor.
Yeah.
And I kind of took that as my philosophy my entire 20s, which is like, you can get pretty comfortable being on like almost no money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're great evidence.
I'm great. I'm so comfortable with being poor, and it's also like I was talking to somebody.
But that's a real there's a power to that. Is my point,
sure.
and that's what also makes me think is like, you know, if I made 500 euros a month from doing the podcast, I'd be like, holy shit, I'm making it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
That's rent. Like,
I think that
you don't need much else.
Yeah, because there's different definitions to making it. I mean, if you get to do something that you fucking love, like I could do this for another 4 hours. You know,
Yeah.
we've got shit to do, and no, I don't think anyone's going to listen to us for more than like whatever. But that's making it in my thing. If you're getting paid to do something like this, that's just fun, you know. What the fuck was I going to say?
Something about making it, podcasting, being
being poor. I was talking to Adam about this, one of the guys, and he was like, oh, like you should try and not be poor, you know, like try. And I'm like, yeah, but there's something that in that way of living that is such a drive to like, oh fuck, I need to get out of this.
And there's also, I mean, it's one of the most restricting things to be so poor, you know, to have to be so worried, like, how am I going to pay for this? You know, you're checking you're, you know, doing the math on like just something that you want, you know, like a drink, you know, like, you know, when you're doing the math where you're like, do I have €2 to buy a sparkling water? You know,
I bought a beer last night at the Wall, and I was just like, this is such a waste of money. I need this $3.50. So I just paid $3.50 for fucking non-alcoholic beer. Like, it was just stupid.
Yeah.
But
but there's a power also to like existing in that way, because you can go so many places, you can have so much time, like doing what you're doing, where you're doing just comedy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
yeah.
like that's fucking that. There's a power to that.
Oh, for sure.
And a real usefulness to it.
Yeah, and I think it's a massive. I was talking because I am kind of like this type of person that having a plan B is like the worst thing I could do for me. I think for some people it works, because there's some comics who have made it. I think there's like Gaffigan maybe, and some other guy who like had really stable jobs until they quit and stuff. I don't think that would work for me, because I need that extra. There's like nights where I might be like, you know, I've worked hard this week. I've done a lot of spots. And then a part of me is just like, you've got minus €400 in your bank account. Like, go out and fucking do that, even when you don't feel like doing it. Or there's literally been spots where I'm sitting in the back, and there's 2 people in the room, like at last week, and you're like, I could just so easily just go, yeah, I don't want to do this, and then but then it kicks in again. You're like, oh, I'm wearing I have shoes now that I bought, but you know, I'm wearing shoes that a comedian gave to me because I can't afford shoes. So you go, get up there and do a fucking set. So I need that. So I think that and I've spoken to comedians who have they're not doing enough comedy because their work is cutting in. I'm like, oh, just quit your job.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, not like we're not all like that fucking, you know, call it crazy or like reckless, but like, yeah, I've had some people be like, yeah, I'm not reckless like that. I need to have some kind of financial stability. And I'm like, yeah, I just don't. And there's almost like a beauty in living frugally, you know?
Yeah.
Like my apartment is like Pascal, like one of the guys he was like, yeah, we've got plenty of, do you have enough shelves? Like, could you?
You're like, shelves?
For what? Yeah, it's like, we've got one wardrobe here. If you need another wardrobe, just let me know. I'll get you another wardrobe. I was like, dude, you've no, like my apartment basically looks like this. Like I have a suitcase, and the clean clothes are in the suitcase and the dirty clothes are on the floor. There's no food in the fridge. There's nothing in the apartment. iPad, no thing. And I just love it. Like there's just nothing. There's just, and it's like, there's no added shit. It's just the bare minimum. And I love it. Like, I really do. And,
and I also think, like, you know, anytime you, like, they talk about it on Tuesdays with stories a lot about Louis being, like, talking about how much he misses, like, the broke days.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And I even notice it within my own life. Like, the time, you know, like the time where I was drinking in the park by myself at 12, I sometimes romanticize it. I'm like, those were good times, you know, like I miss just being like, fucking fuck the world. I'm kind of letting it burn. Let's see what happens, you know?
Oh yeah.
And like, And so I really, it's like an exercise, like a gratitude exercise. Hippie alert.
Where's the crystals? Still need my crystals.
Let me burn some Palo Santo and we can. But it's a gratitude exercise for me to sometimes realize like the time that we're in right now. Like, I mean, for you, not to like twist the screw, but it's like, in a week or so, you're gonna be like, "Holy shit, those were amazing times in Berlin." Like you're gonna miss the time that we're in right now.
Oh, for sure, I'm well aware of that. Like there's been definitely, I've been like very conscious of that the last year and a half, where I'm like, "Oh, these are probably like the best." I'm gonna look back and be like, "These are the best years of my life." Like, you know what I mean? And I thought I peaked. I thought I had gotten over that when I was like, because I used to think of like 16 to. I was like, oh, it'll never get as good as 16 to 20, where you've just got fucking nothing, no cares. All you're worried about is just getting high with your friends, and it is beautiful, and it's nice that there's
so beautiful it'll destroy your life.
It's so beautiful that it'll destroy your life, and it's just the beauty of the innocence of the youth. But whatever, and
and that's what we're trying to
and that's what we're trying to get when we want to fuck these kids. But just let me fuck you. But and then there's a beauty that like, oh, this can't be replicated. Oh god! Woo! But there's like a thing about that period of time, and you're like, oh, this is. And I thought like, because I remember, I don't know if there was one day we sat at a diner after a show, and we were talking about like, oh, what's the happiest moment you've ever had in your life? And it took me a while, and I was like, I remember I went to like Ibiza, or I went Magaluf or somewhere like that with my friends, and I was like 18, and I was like drunk and high on ecstasy, and it was like 7 a.m. The sun was coming up, and we were on a beach, and we swam out to like this artificial kind of like floating thing that was like just a few 100 yards from the beach. And sitting on that thing with like two of my friends, the sun was coming up, and I was like, "Oh, it's not gonna get better than this,"
Yeah.
It's almost getting emotional thinking about it, like, and it was like, and then like from like 20 up until stand up and coming here, I was like, it's not gonna get. That's the only time I'm gonna feel like life was good. But like I look back and I'm like, oh no, this is gonna be. These are very special years, and like I'm really gonna look back and be like, oh fuck, like this is, and you try to like. Tell yourself like, no, take this in and like enjoy this, because like because you hear like comics talking about that period in their careers, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in that moment right now, where you're just coming up with these people who are like that you love, and then there's something amazing about doing something you love with people you love, and they also love the thing that you love, and it's just you're all in this sharing this passion, and you're all going. I mean, you meet dickheads and along the way, and hacks, and you fucking go, and then but it's just you're all on this same thing.
And it's, I think part of the magic is also it's like later it's at a certain point hopefully knock on wood, you found your voice, and you understand comedy, and you still love it. But I think it's also comedically, if you put it in the terms of a relationship, it's like, those first 6 months when you're with someone, it's like this, like, feels like a movie, and like, every moment is like just vivid. I feel like comedically it's the same thing, where it's like, I'm still figuring out, like, I still sometimes don't understand why certain jokes work and why some don't. And you're figuring that out. And then you get to see your friends like doing the same thing. And you're like, when you see your friend do an amazing new bit and you're like, holy shit. I don't know. I saw Louis last night, and I was like, holy shit. When did Louis get like those were like good takes. Like, it's not even they're good jokes, but it's like, it's an interesting take. Yeah.
And it's great to see. I love that. With like the likes of like Louis and Eunice and Bruno, people who don't fucking know who they are, but the people we know, and seeing them, because they've started after us, and seeing them like get better, it's such an awesome thing to see. Like, you're like, oh shit, like fucking, it's so cool to see them progress. And then it's also like, I always think that it's a good thing to be like, because when I started off, and when people, I always make it a conscious thing that like, Because I remember when I started off in Ireland, and then there's people who'd maybe been doing it for a year longer than you. Even if it's only a year, if they say to you, "Oh yeah, you're getting better," I always make it a conscious thing to, like, if I felt that way about someone, to say that, because like that meant a lot to me when I was literally in the infancy of like doing it for like a month or two.
Totally.
Just for like someone who's even been doing it a year longer than you to be like, "You're getting good, stay at it." Like it makes it fucking. You're like, it's like validation that you're like, oh shit, there is, I'm doing something right.
And it helps you keep working.
Oh yeah, but there's no secret to getting better. It's like all the people that we just said that are getting better is like they're at every fucking mic.
Yeah.
I always think that that's like the sign of like the people who are gonna get better is like the people who turn up to show up to sign-ups.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I don't know if we're gonna have a crowd. You're gonna get 3 minutes and the show's going to be fucking 2 hours long, and you might be last, and you're going to get 3 minutes, and you might even get a spot, because if you turn up to if the people who turn up to that, I'm like, you're on the right path. And they're always the people who get better, who progress, like, so that's always good to see. And that's like, it's cool, yeah, when you see fucking, you see people do that, it's always nice to see. And yeah, it's a crazy fucking yeah, I mean, what did it die?
The camera died here.
Ah, shit.
But we still have the other one, so I think it's fine.
Yeah, with this one?
Yeah.
Can you see you in it?
No.
No, it's just gonna be me.
Well, I mean, I don't know when this one died, so we also have the first
4 hours.
4 hours. And this was on when we started, so I mean, I'm sure we have at least 15 or 20 minutes of it, and then I have the GoPro too. So.
All right, cool. So we can wrap it up.
Yeah, we probably should wrap it up. Anyway.
Yeah, get some food and shit. You should leave in the cut though of my phone ringing and being like, "Yeah, that's my therapist." Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Which quickly, by the way, was like, I probably should have taken the call. But like I said, if I'd taken the call and I started laughing, she'd be like, because my relationship with the secretary of my therapist is like on thin ice.
Well,
so
really?
Yeah. Because
Why?
I had a big fight with her like during the middle of the pandemic, because like I went through same as like everybody else. I went through like a period of time where I was like, oh, the world's never going to be the same again.
And also, you just discovered this new thing that you're like, this is what my life is going to be.
No,
and then you're like,
gone.
oh, it's gone now.
Yeah,
that was
because it was in
the worst feeling. The worst part of the pandemic.
Yeah, it was like, because it was like I got honey dicked because I had already been in Berlin and loved it. And then I had to come back because Berlin went into lockdown. And so did Ireland. So I went home for Christmas and ended up being stuck at home for 7 months. So I'd already got a taste. So then I was stuck, and I was just like, oh, like, the world is over. I might as well just. And I went through this period of like a week where I was like, oh, fine, something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is gonna go down a thing. And then I rang. I remember, this is like the only time I've had like a Karen moment.
Yeah.
Like, because I rang and I was in crisis, and I rang and I got her voicemail, and then she didn't get back to me for like I left 2 voicemails, didn't get back to me, and then a week later she rang me. And then she was just so, because his previous secretary was so nice. Her name was Claire. Shout out to Claire.
Shout out Claire.
Love you, Claire.
We love you, Claire.
Love you, Claire. Hope you're doing good. And she was so nice, and like you literally call like, and you're part of you's like, this is private healthcare.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's not shitty public healthcare.
Yeah.
Like, this is private. I'm paying through the fucking nose for this shit. So like, I'd call her, and it's like, this is why you pay money for healthcare, to get fast fucking responses. You know what I mean? Like, if it was public healthcare, you'd be like, yeah, this is
the system.
It's the system. But like, I'm like paying for this shit. And his other secretary would like call me straight back. Are you okay? Do you want? I could just do whatever. And so then she rang me like a week later, and she was so just like, hey, COVID is just, like, she was just the complete opposite of his previous.
Yeah.
She was like, it's just like, it's just really, like, as if
It's a wild time, once in a lifetime pandemic.
Yeah, she's like, we're really, and I was like, and I said this to her, because it was like she was dealing with people who were complaining about their phone bill. And and it was like, no, I had to remind her that, like, I went full Karen, because like, you don't get many opportunities in life to be on the right side of a Karen moment.
Oh yeah.
And I was so in the right. It's like the Louis thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't do a joke from it because it's the Louis thing with him in the courtyard.
Oh,
he pretends
yeah.
to be gross, you know,
Yeah.
and he pretends not to live
Yeah.
there. Can I just stay like another 6 hours? But she like, so like she's just like, yeah, well, you know, and she didn't apologize. She didn't apologize for like making me wait a week. And I'm like, I could have killed myself in that period of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She's like, yeah, we just said it's been busy with COVID, you know, and like it's a tough time, you know, so it's I can get. And then I was just like, I just kind of like lost it, and I was just like, this is like you need to know that you're dealing with like people in. I love how I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
I was like, you need to know like you're dealing with people who are like severely mentally ill and like in crisis. You're not dealing with people who are complaining about their phone bills. You should start treating people better. Because this is like you're talking to people like this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I was like, and she was like, well, I don't think that's very fair. I was like, I'll tell you what, I don't think it's very fair. I was on the fucking brink of killing myself, and I call you twice, and I'm paying like fucking hundreds of euros for this shit, and you don't call me back for a week. I could have fucking killed myself in that week. And she just wasn't budging. Like she was like, if you want an apology, like her energy was just like,
She's like, well, then do it.
Yeah. She's like, do it, pussy. Yeah. Yeah, but
Sounds
did
like
you
you're
get
allowed
it?
to talk to me.
Yeah. Sounds like you're all talk, Rob. Yeah. That'd be so funny if she so didn't give a shit. Like she wanted to quit anyway. So she's just like, I just want a reason to get fired. She's just like, just fucking kill yourself, then, you fucking pussy.
Yeah.
So I was just like, had this
I don't
thing.
give a shit.
Yeah, I don't give a fucking shit if you kill yourself. You fucking shitty lives. Like I've seen your file. You should fucking kill yourself anyway. And she's like, yeah, I've seen you. You're a hack. I've seen your TikTok. Yeah, you're a fucking hack. You should kill yourself. But and then I was just so fucking, and I was like angry, but also like crying, like you're fucking. And I didn't curse because I'm wise enough now. I've had so many jobs that like you curse, you concede.
Yeah.
Power.
Then you lose the game.
You lose the game. You need to stay.
Yeah.
You need to not curse because the minute you curse, they're like, well, I'm going to hang up because you're threatening me or whatever. So you got to not curse. So I was just like, I got to kill myself. Something bad could have happened in this period of time. And this isn't good enough. And like Claire, I kept referencing Claire. I was like, Claire wouldn't have done this.
This isn't the way Claire used to do things.
You know, Claire, you got big boots to fill, missus. And I was...
And if you have her contact information, I would love it if you passed it along to me.
I was like, where's Claire? It's for my Claire. So I was like, Claire, his previous secretary. I was like, because her excuse was like, well, this is unprecedented times. And like, I get it. Like capacity, like the capacity for, or the applications to get into psychiatric hospitals during COVID increased by like a third. Like people were losing their minds, understandably. So her excuse was like, well, this is unprecedented times. So like, and I was like, that doesn't fucking fly because Claire was here for the first chunk of the pandemic, like the first, whatever, 6-7 months. Yeah. And like during that chunk, I called and she always called me back the same day. Like I was just like, why? You don't have a fucking leg to stand on. And she was just like, and she was just so cunty. Like I was just like, I could tell like, oh, you're a cunt. Like you are. Because I was like, she just wasn't conceding. She was like giving this energy. Like I'm not apologizing. Like she didn't say that, but she's like, if you're expecting an apology, you're not getting it. Like, you know what I mean? Like fuck you. Like
over your dead body.
Yeah, over your dead body that's swinging from a rafter with a noose around your neck. You faggot. Sorry, that was too much. But she was like, and she's this cunty energy, and I was just like. And she's like, yeah, well, I have an appointment that we'd speak to Dr. I won't say his name. And, but he was like, and I was like, yeah, he goes, I'm going to talk to him about this. I'm going to speak. It's like, I'm going to speak to your manager. Like, I swear, I was full blown Karen. I was like, I'm going to talk to him about this, about you.
And I want to be talking about the fact that I'm thinking about killing myself, but instead I have to talk about you.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk to him about this. And then she was like, that's fine with me. You were everywhere. And then at one point, she was like, you're being very unfair and all that sort of stuff. And I was just like, fuck you. So then he calls me when he actually did call me. And I was just like, fucking like half an hour. Just like, this isn't good enough. I'm paying her about 120 euro. And she's treating me like I'm just like I'm trying to pay my phone bill. I got to fucking kill myself. And the whole time he's just like, he's gay, which is hilarious. He's gay.
And how did that make you feel?
Yeah, he's just like, Robert, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so sorry. And he's like, I completely understand where you're coming from. And I was like, I was just like, she's no Claire. But I was like, you need to tell her that she's not working in a call center for a fucking thing. Like, she's dealing with vulnerable people. And he's like, I'll pass on the message. I'll pass on the message.
I hear you.
Yeah, I hear you.
I hear you.
And he was apologizing for her. He was like, I'm really sorry. I was like, no, you don't have to apologize. You did fucking nothing wrong. Is this fucking bitch out?
Like, you think I don't miss Claire?
Yeah, you think
I fucking miss Claire every day.
Yeah, it's like, oh my god, I miss Claire so much. But the two of us are just like crying, like, yeah. We start gossiping about her. He's like, oh my god, I know she's a bitch, right? Yeah. She's like, oh my god, fuck her. Like, am I right? Like, fuck Audrey.
Every time she leaves, I'm like, see you next Tuesday.
Am I right? Yeah.
And then I look at a little picture of Claire I have on my desk.
Yeah. He's on the phone talking to me, and he's just like, I know, I missed her too. And there's like a photo of her on the desk, like, and she's naked for some reason.
Yeah. I think it's gross but beautiful.
It's like he put like a hidden camera in the toy, in the female toy. He's like, I missed her as well. But he's gay, so that doesn't make sense at all. And all of this is a joke because I don't want someone getting disbarred for fucking whatever. And so then anyway, so then since then it's been Frosty.
Yeah.
A bit Frosty the Snowman whenever we spoke over the phone. But there it was nice, you know, it's like she never apologized.
I think the moment that you were telling her I was thinking about killing myself and crying, if she didn't choose to apologize then, I didn't think you were going to get a retroactive apology.
I'm like on the phone to her there, and I was like, oh yeah, well thank you so much, I appreciate that. Because she was nice. She was like, there is no space for like 2 months. This guy is like super good and expensive. So he was like, there's no space for like 2 months. And then she was like, and then she goes, but I can squeeze you in tomorrow. I can squeeze you in. And it's like, why the build-up of like, there's just nothing.
She wants you to feel like you're doing her a favor.
Oh, for sure. She's like, I can hear her. She's like, let me just see now. Like she's like she's
I
pretending.
pulled a Claire and I can squeeze you.
Yeah. I can tell that she's actually sitting there probably looking at her nails, but she's trying to give the impression of her voice that she's like, I'm seeing nothing here. Like she's looking at his calendar. She's like, he's booked up to like things. She's like, are you going to be home anytime soon? Because she knows I'm in Germany. She's like, are you going to be in Ireland anytime soon? If you're here, you could see. He's like, I'm not going to be in Ireland for like at least 3 months. She's like, okay. Well, and then she goes, I mean, he has one slot tomorrow at 4. Could you do that? Of course I could do that. I've called you twice in the past week, and like I know what you're doing, bitch. You're trying to get me to think like, oh, you're doing me a solid. Yeah. You're not. You should just go. The first thing you should have said was like, oh yeah, I
have time tomorrow at 4.
4 o'clock. Is that good for you? Yeah, cool, bye. Yeah. There's like this whole thing of like, oh, I don't know, I'm gonna have to really squeeze you in, whatever. And I was just like, it was fucking, and I was like, thank you very much, I appreciate that. But it's like part of me wants to be like, you still haven't apologized. Yeah. You know what, Audrey. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm still waiting on that fucking apology. And I'm gonna fucking I've never met her in person because the whole changeover happened during COVID, so I've never met her in person. So I wonder if I ever meet her in person. So I'm like, hey, bitch. Yeah.
You should.
It's like, just give her like,
sup.
Yeah. She'd be like, yeah, fuck you. Yeah. Fucking oh, fuck.
Well, we should wrap this up, but I feel like let's spin the wheel. Spin the wheel.
Okay.
Give it a spin. Yes.
So what does this mean?
Should we
blow each other or something?
Yeah, we blow each other.
Yeah,
okay. We could be ass girls for a minute.
Okay. Oh, this is
we have characters.
I think we were very assy there for a minute.
Yeah, we could. I'll spin it again.
Say the N-word. No. What does it say?
Oh shit, dude, we got the N-word again.
Best worst
childhood. So do you have a best, or I guess you kind of just said a best memory from childhood, the Ibiza.
Is that childhood?
I guess that, yeah.
Best childhood memory. I used every summer I go to this like a trailer park. Not trailer park. That makes it sound very trashy. Like a camping site thing.
My parents also took us to a trailer park.
But it was a fancy
camping,
trailer park.
Yeah.
And it was like by a beach, and I'd spend my summers
They
there.
made them permanent.
Yeah, they're permanent. There's no gypsies.
Built in a little.
And it's like people with money, you know. Like we didn't own it. My rich uncles did, and they were like, yeah, let them stay or whatever. That was the best. Worst. Gotta be my parents' divorce. I can't believe I didn't get into this on the podcast, but my parents got divorced. I took it super bad. I ended up in a psychiatric hospital for children for 2 months. It's a film. It's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, except I was 10. That was pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, like that.
Bad.
Yeah, that's pretty shitty. Like,
I think we did talk about your parents' divorce last time, but I wasn't comfortable enough to be like, that's hilarious.
Yeah, but I don't think as well I got into the me being in a kid's crazy house,
well,
which was
3.0. We'll have
yes,
to.
we'll have to, because that's a whole pod within of itself. Those kids that I was in there with are probably dead. But here I am, you know.
Yeah.
I know there's one guy called Rob. Maybe he was mute. Yeah, so it wasn't great with conversation. But another guy, Lorcan. He's probably dead. He tried to kill himself while I was there, so that's not good.
Not great.
Yeah, that's not great. He's probably dead.
Yeah.
And
rest in peace, Lorcan.
Yeah, Dr. Duty. He was the Duty was his name. He was the doctor. Shout out to you. You kind of did me a solid there. Yeah, and
Doogie Howser.
Duty Howser. Yeah, do the duty. Do you want to do one?
Let's see. What do I have for? Yeah, my
try
best.
And top that bitch.
Yeah. My best childhood memory, also at the trailer park. Ours was a bit trashy.
Yeah.
Okay. It's why I love the smell of stale like cigarette. You know when you go into a room and people have smoked in there.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
I associate it with like my childhood vacations. But what about what would be a worst childhood memory? Probably the 14 still count?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The end of my first relationship was
okay.
extremely traumatic.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Were you like in love?
No, that was the problem. I wasn't in she was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to gaslight.
You gaslight her?
Yeah, I want to gaslight her.
Just
no,
do
but
it.
she was crazy, and at some point I realized this is not good, and then I asked my parents I don't want to be hurtful. I want to end this nicely. How do I go about this the right way? And they're like, maybe you need to send her some signals that the relationship isn't going well, so she's not totally blindsided. And so we were supposed to talk on the phone, and I just called her parents' house and I left a message and I was like, hey, I'm not in the mood to talk tonight, so I'll call you tomorrow. And then she had a total meltdown. I had 150 text messages, 40 calls on my phone. She called my parents' house repeatedly. Yeah. She called my best friend, who's still alive.
There we go. That's four. Four is
but she called his house twice, and I was there. Yeah. And his dad was also such a G. He was like, no, I don't know. I haven't seen him. Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to talk to Zach? And they were like, yeah, I don't know where he is. And so then finally I had to call her, and then I was like, yeah, okay. I need to just end this now. Yeah. And then she killed
herself?
No, but she did start
cutting herself.
She started cutting herself again, and it was
again.
Yeah.
She was an early bloomer.
Yeah. And it was a thing at our school. It was everybody knew we were a couple, and then it was we broke up, and she kind of like
a Johnny Depp Amber Heard type.
Yeah. I don't know if I came off as well as Johnny Depp.
I want to hear her side of the story. Okay, I want to. So that was your worst.
That was
pretty bad.
I just remember specifically the day after, my mom was just she just gave me $10 and she was like, go to the movies, go to and I just remember walking to the movie theater and just that feeling when shit is really bad and it's it almost is psychedelic where you're everything kind of feels cinematic and you feel unreal a little bit. You know what I mean? You feel like a character or something. I remember feeling that and just being fuck, my life is over, you know? Of course it was fine.
It was fine, but at the time it's the end of the world.
I mean, high school was over, but...
Yeah. I'm fuck you gotta be in a relationship when you're 14. That's great. What does that feel like? I haven't been in one yet.
You know what the crazy thing is, too? I discovered masturbation, and then 3 months later we started dating. So I went from my first orgasm to the first time having someone else make me orgasm was 4 months.
Oh, that's pretty
4
awesome.
months. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome, but I also think it was that also fucked me up. Yeah. I think because we dated for a year and a half or something, and I think if we hadn't been involved sexually, I would have much more quickly been oh, I'm miserable. Like, this is terrible. But I was 14 and I was like, oh, I'm like,
This is nice.
this is nice.
Yeah.
I guess this is what love is.
Yeah,
I guess
just-
love is just like you kind of feel bad about yourself and you don't get to do anything you want to do. And
Another person touches your dick.
another person touches your dick. It's,
That's pretty awesome, man. Yeah. That sounds like a good memory. Apart from the self-harm, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
I mean,
all right.
yeah, spin the wheel.
Let's
of-
spin one more time here. Dude, surfer bro.
Yeah, all right.
Let's like we can like be surfers, but or you don't have to if you don't want to, but I will because it's like my whole thing.
Okay,
But
yeah.
like we could talk about like, dude, what do you think
Yeah,
happens
after-
when we
yeah.
die, dude?
I don't know. I'm just like looking forward to seeing my best friend again. You know. Dude,
That is so gnarly.
wouldn't it be so gnarly? You see your dog who died when you were like 5, and you're
That
like,
would be,
dude,
like, so crazy.
Yeah.
And like the thing is, like, do you think he'll like hold it against you that you made it like longer than him? Like, you think it'll be awkward?
Oh man, that would be. Dude. Oh fuck, man.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap this up.
Jesus, it's been.
We're definitely at like 2 hours
Yeah, for
plus.
sure. I
But
thought that was great.
this was super fun.
Yeah.
I just want to say, you're the best.
Oh, you're the best.
You're
I love you, Pat.
I love you, dude.
I love you too. Let's fuck.
Yeah. Episode 3.
Episode 3. I love you, dude. I could do this fucking all day.
You're super funny, and I wish you like all the best in London. Establish yourself, and then
Thank you, dude.
Help me when I.
Oh wow, dude, you're having me on the pod, man. This is fucking.
Come on.
This is the best, man. Fucking.
But do you have anything like any reflection or something that sticks out in your mind, like leaving that you think about, or that you think like that will stick with you?
Yeah, just all the fucking good times, man. All the fucking laughs, all the people, like
Good
just the good
times,
times, dude. Yeah, just like good times, man. Just fucking
Time with the bros.
yeah, just like winning that competition was just like so
That was
good.
sick, dude.
Yeah, but like, yeah, just everybody, all the memories, fucking getting to do cool shows and meet awesome people, and yeah, I mean, I'm definitely gonna come back. But just
You're not welcome back.
Yeah, once you leave, you ain't coming back. Yeah.
What do you want me to say? I don't love you anymore. I don't love you anymore.
I'm throwing you,
Get outta
Berlin.
here.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it'll be at least. I don't know where I'm gonna be at in
Yeah,
June.
we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. But yeah,
Maybe you
for
get an
now-
agent. Yeah.
Yeah, I get an Asian.
Yeah.
An Asian agent. That
An
would be
Asian agent.
That would be cool.
They're the underrated
Big
agent.
time. Yeah. Asian
Well,
agent.
dude, I wish you all the best,
Thank
and
you,
this was
dude.
super fun and probably a little bit self-indulgent.
No,
on
for
our
sure.
part,
Yeah, but fuck it. Yeah.
fuck it.
Yes. Dude. Awesome.